Hello, everybody. Okay. Welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. It is Monday. Let's do our mic check here. Let's make sure everybody can hear us. Can you hear us out there in La La Land? Throw up all the cool stuff here that we need. We literally just walked in the door here. So, got that. Okay. Can you guys hear us? Yep. Perfect. Cool. Okay. Mr. Doyle.
Yes.
How is it?
It's pretty good.
All right. So we literally just walked through the door. We went to the area that we've been doing investigations in for a couple of years now. But we were there last night and a very crazy incident happened, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we went back today to kind of follow up on that. So we literally walked through the door and ran in here and turned everything on.
Yeah, so we're still in our outdoors clothes, muddy boots.
Yeah. I'm still wearing my warm hat because it's really cold up there. So we ran in the door and turned everything on and started the live stream. So good evening, everybody. Hello, James Barker. Hello, Frank. Hello, Alan Lassiter. Dudester, as always. Freddie Baker. Hello to everybody. I know that we missed last week. I was not feeling well. I still have kind of a little bit of a sinus infection, but I'm okay. I am getting by. Steve Taylor just walked through the door as well.
Listening to Dark Dive on one device and listening to the live stream on another one. Yeah, we just released, what is it, episode 7?
Yeah.
On our Dark Dive podcast today, and it has been very polarizing so far.
Yes. Well, when you talk about aliens and demons, and then ritual magic and all kinds of stuff, it'll bring up a lot of it's a polarizing subject.
Yes, very much so. And we didn't really. It seems like certain people are getting upset because we speak in. They think we're trying to put a Christian slant on everything.
Okay.
Which I'm not quite sure how they would get that impression. I guess because of the use of the word demon. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's just
And like we've discussed before on our live streams too, when we use words like that, we're not trying to force a perspective. I think it's just that this is a word that is common use. It's the word that is in common use to convey an idea, a concept of what we're talking about. So we didn't have any sort of like slant on it because
no.
But however, if you haven't seen the latest episode of Dark Dive, we put that out today at about 3 p.m. So if you get a chance, go and check that out and let us know what you think about it. It was really fun to do. We've done a lot of research to start the Diabolical Hypothesis series. It is the first in a number of podcasts because it goes very, very deep, and it's going to go to some weird places.
And the reason why it's going to these weird places is we've hinted in the past, we've talked about the Diabolical Hypothesis,
Yeah.
I mean, if you've listened to this any stretch of time, that as far as like UAPs, UFOs, aliens go, I'm not an extraterrestrial believer. I believe that all of this stuff is interdimensional. And I believe that bleeds over into a lot of the other phenomenon out there as well. I think that bleeds into what people commonly refer to as cryptid phenomenon. And like our friend Barton Nunley, who's on here, hey Barton, likes to say, cryptids are basically undiscovered creatures. The things that people are claiming to witness don't seem like they're just an undiscovered animal that fits neatly into our zoological classifications.
Yeah.
So we think that interdimensional thing kind of bleeds over to a lot of the different strange phenomena that are out there. We were familiar with the Diabolical Hypothesis. And for me, at least, I think that as far as like the Diabolical Hypothesis goes, whether you're a Christian, a pagan, you are a Hindu, you're a Muslim, no matter what religious background you are, for me, the Diabolical Hypothesis is saying that the way I view it is that it's interdimensional, but it is tinged with what we would define as evil or malicious intent. Okay.
Yes.
Not in different not anything like that, but actively working towards the destruction of humanity, or at least the
Yeah.
enslavement of humanity, or
Yes.
whatever. So I guess that's up to a certain amount of debate at this point. But for us, that audio that we caught not too long ago was a real game changer
Yeah,
for
the
us.
one that we had in what Supernatural Predators? What was it? Screaming Lights
and
I don't know
Supernatural
why
Predators.
I can never remember the title of that episode.
I can't remember the titles of most of our stuff
I
because
know.
when I think about it, it's just
That
hey,
time
that
that
time that
happened.
this happened,
Yeah.
not in the lens of like how did we put it on YouTube?
Yeah, but the Screaming Lights and Supernatural Predators episode that has that audio that we captured, and of course we're gonna get back to this, but that's right in the area where we went to yesterday, last
Yes.
night, and today.
But that humming noise that we got,
yes,
the growling, and I've had people message us and go, "Oh, that's just a bear," and I'm going, I could see where maybe some of the growls could be interpreted as being just a bear, but explain how on two separate occasions it sounds like speech almost. Explain that weird clicking noise. That's not a bear popping its jaw. We've mentioned before one of our main research areas is next to the Pisgah Bear Sanctuary. We've been a little bit closer to black bear than what we're comfortable being. We've heard bears pop their jaws before. It's not that. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. And then that humming noise, almost like a mechanical electronic humming.
It's almost like a mechanical whir is how I kind of describe
And I did
it.
a function test on the recorder.
Yeah.
The recorder's fine. The recorder's not doing anything at all. The recorder is functioning perfectly, and every test run I've had is not, that humming has not duplicated on. We even tested it in rainy conditions this week, and it was picking up raindrops hitting on it, and not once did that hum start back up.
It would be one thing if we got that audio separately, if we got it on different recorders at different times separately, and we compiled it and said, this is a sound we got here. A few days later, we got this sound. A couple hours later, we got this sound. This is all three of these things, which sounds like a clicking sort of communication. It's a vocalization, a clicking, but it has a pattern. It seems to me like it is it's a communication, right? So you have that, you have the growling, and at one point, I believe right after the recorder gets picked up, it seems like there's an exchange between whatever is growling and whatever is doing this clicking vocalization. And then you also have the metallic whir.
Several people said that. It sounded conversational between two different things. So.
But you have all three of these things on the same recording at the exact same time. I think that's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal.
And then the eyes that we caught on camera, but we didn't realize they were there at the time.
Yeah, I didn't see them until I'm reviewing the footage and I see these eyes come up. So I have that in that video too. That's right after we record the audio and after we actually hear the clicking with our own ears. So yeah, that was pretty wild. And then I did that follow-up video where I kind of just had the audio isolated. A few of you watched that and were like, okay, it's a little more impactful, almost like by itself. So I put that out there.
So where we are after that happened is that we're in an area where we know that there has been occult activity taking place. We are not getting like Sasquatch activity in this, other than maybe some tree twists we've seen. We've seen some weird tree structure type things. That's not necessarily Sasquatch related. That's usually associated with Sasquatch activity.
Right.
But that's not to say that that's what's up there, but we don't think that's what we're dealing with up there anymore.
No.
And when we started to really kind of sit and think about it, about how this occult activity up there is taking place, we're getting all of this other weird activity now. That made us kind of dive into the diabolical hypothesis a little bit more in the Jack Parsons story, somebody who was, using occult practices to maybe bring other entities over into this reality from somewhere else then. So.
Speaking of Jack Parsons, I'm wearing my Jack Parsons t-shirt today. There we go. Isn't that cool? I ordered that after we did this episode. I was like, okay, I have to have a Jack Parsons t-shirt. The satanic rocket scientist.
Yeah, but it's a weird story. And
it's such a weird story.
It's such a weird story. And I'll be honest with you, I just like anybody else who's involved in weird stuff, I had like a passing familiarity with like Aleister Crowley. I didn't really know that much about Jack Parsons at all. You know what I'm saying? Not hardly anything in the slightest. But then as we started looking up with like occult activity in relation to like paranormal or I guess you'd say cryptid activity, although that's not the right word, but like in conjunction with like other strange phenomena, we came across Jack Parsons and started diving into it. And it's a crazy story, man. That is a crazy story. And I've seen it in other podcasts before as we were doing this. I've seen where other podcasts have done Jack Parsons stuff and like episodes and everything like that. But what we really wanted to focus on was the fact that it's not much of a stretch to say that Aleister Crowley did that ritual, the Amalantha ritual, contacted a lamb. And then somebody who was a scientific, basically genius, who approached this esoteric practice, but with the scientific method of refining it and retesting it and trying it over and over again until he got the results he wanted, had a even bigger response.
Yeah.
And pulled some stuff through. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're just of the opinion now that we think that's what's going on in this one particular area that we're in, that somebody has opened up a portal, or somebody has opened a pre-existing portal a little bit further than what it was already.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Strengthened it somehow.
Yeah.
And that's a little weird, and that's a little out there for people that are just looking for fun Bigfoot stories. You know what I'm saying? You know, like I left at a candy bar and then it's bringing me berries, and it's, that's not where we're really headed in this one particular area at all.
I was actually, I was at work, and somebody who has a Bigfoot channel, he does Bigfoot stuff. He came in, he's a friend of mine, and he doesn't really watch a lot of our stuff. We just kind of know each other through social media and stuff, but he came in and we were talking, and he goes, so are you and Joe like more like flesh and blood, or are you like more like on the woo side of things with Bigfoot? And I said, oh, no, we're beyond all of that now. It's like we're just beyond, we're beyond all of that now. I said we've gone off this crazy deep end now. I don't even think we're in Bigfoot territory anymore. Like at all. So,
and it's weird because we had to, when we did that podcast, we had to have very structured notes because it's so easy to go off on random weird tangents in this. The big thing for me that nobody's really talked about yet is that you look at any of this, somebody had mentioned dark magic, Cryptidville, dark magic, any of this type of stuff that traditionally you hear about people summoning things, right?
Yes.
And it's done through ritualistic behavior.
Yes.
And then you start to look into what Jack Parsons did, ritualistic behavior, but now he and Crowley are using like mind-altering drugs. And they seem to have had a greater response than anybody else, you know what I'm saying? As far as like the effects that they were able to generate up, and possibly these entities they're ever be able to bring over with. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
And then you look into CE5 that a lot of people talk about, where you're able to basically summon UFO activity.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't seem to have a dark tinge to it, but you're still using ritualistic behavior, a prescribed set of rituals, and then an altered, meditative consciousness.
Yeah.
And you're able to bring these things over.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at it, we're going, well, for creatures that are like, when we're using this in the case of aliens, creatures that are defined by overwhelmingly advanced technology, why are people constantly able to communicate and summon them through what you would consider like mystical methods? That doesn't make sense for like a really advanced, they're not out there with like radio telescopes and stuff like that, or transmitters, shoot. It's not like Close Encounters of the Third Kind where they've got that big machine that they're communicating with the saucer with. They're using ritualistic activity and then intent. And then you look into, like we talked about, Gary Nolan, who is the geneticist who's been involved with doing a lot of work with military and intelligence agents who have had UAP encounters. And he starts to realize that pretty much all of the ones that have had encounters have a different brain makeup, to oversimplify it, than normal people do. So these people already had a predisposition. Predisposition. It's almost like they had the right wiring.
Yeah.
They had the right antenna. And I'm going, well, are these people born with that mental state, or however you want to praise it, or that brain makeup, brain chemistry perhaps, that these other people are trying to attain through their stuff? It seems like it all goes back to like the mind, intent, ritual.
And then what happens when you are already born that way, like with this predisposition, your brain is already wired that way. Mm-hmm. And then you suddenly go into ritual magic or whatever you go into.
Yeah, I mean, they're
where you're trying to contact and conjure these things. When you start to combine these elements together, and what what kind of thing are you going to bring over? What kind of thing are you going to open up by combining all of these things?
Well, that's the thing, is that it honestly, it sounds kind of wacky, I mean, for lack of a better term. But then you realize Gary Nolan's a brilliant dude. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's considered one of the top 25 and scientific inventors from his college, and he's got like patents out the wazoo. He has, as far as genetics go, he's like pretty much the scientific pioneer in this day and age. He's an extremely well thought of scientist. And these people who are having these are being contacted with these UAPs, these aliens, these entities, all have unique brain structure that you don't find in the rest of the population. And then you're going, well, these guys that are claiming to do this are doing things to alter their mental state, and none of that seems like that would be necessary if these things were coming over on spaceships. You know what I'm saying? So our goal to go forward is to kind of see, is this happening in other areas of the country right now? Is it happening in that area we're going to in North Georgia?
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean,
so let's play a little catch up here on the area where we've been going to in North Georgia, which we literally just walked in the door from, because we went back there today to kind of follow up on what happened last night. Last night was probably one of the strangest nights we've ever experienced. It was terrifying, exciting.
Yeah, it was disturbing.
So
weird.
Yeah. So we went back today to follow up on that. And so, kind of a little background there. If you're not, I'm sure a lot of you have seen our videos and you've been following the story of what's going on in our research area in North Georgia we've been going to, there is occult activity going on there. We have a long history of occult activity happening in this area, and it's mainly happening in certain spots.
Mm-hmm.
So they were performing rituals in the area where we actually got that recording near there. So it's like a stone's throw away from there. So we got that recording that we put out in that last video that we put out. That was near where they were performing rituals. Well, we decided to go somewhere nearby where we have evidence of them going and performing rituals elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we found another area in the woods where there's a certain thing that they do, and I'm not going to give it away of what they do, that we know that they're up in a certain area because they mark the side of the road a certain way to let each other know, I guess.
Or it's part of the ritual itself.
Or it's part of the ritual itself.
And it's not just us saying this. We've had other people that we've spoken to that have been in that area that have
backed this up.
Well, actually, they brought it up to us before we even mentioned it. That there's cultists going on up there and devil worshippers and everything like that. But so the area that we're in, that Jesse's talking about, before we got into this area, we were about 20 miles away?
Yes.
20 miles away, and we're in an area where we were having stereotypical like Bigfoot activity. Okay. Finding big prints, like stuff like that. The activity got a little weird on us at the end. We would go out geared for like a Bigfoot hunt, and we would just have strange lights, just almost like paranormal stuff happening. And then just all of a sudden, one day, it just went completely quiet, and it never started back up again. As a matter of fact, we were out there the last week. The reason why we didn't have a live stream is we spent a couple of days out in that area just to double check it, to see if anything had started back up again.
And I got sick.
Got really sick because it was like raining on us constantly. It was 2 days of rain and fog and everything. But we didn't really have anything happen. And we just kept talking about how that area seems dead. When all the activity ceased in that area, we started ranging out, and we kind of came across this old network of old logging roads, old gravel roads that aren't maintained anymore. And we ended up going up in there, and that's how we kind of stumbled across the area that we're currently looking into. And then as we've spoken to other people that have been up there, they have told us that there's spirits in the woods there. Watch out for the spirits. The voices. Watch out for the occultists that are up there. There's devil worshippers up there. There's this and that. And
we've seen these people with our own eyes. And then we have credible witnesses who have walked up on them actually performing a ritual in the area where we do investigations. So, I mean, we have the receipts on this, but we've actually seen these people with our own eyes. We know that they're up there. We know that they're up to no good. And when you get up to that kind of stuff, you open up. We don't know if they're opening something up or if they're drawing something in.
or are they strengthening something that was already there?
Yeah.
Because there are stories of that particular spot that go back hundreds of years.
That's true. The Native Americans have a legend about that area, that
Mhm.
there are what you would consider demonic forces dwelling within the mountain.
Fire-breathing demons.
Yeah,
that
fire
live
breathing
inside
demons.
the mountain. Yeah.
Yes. So those stories go back hundreds and hundreds of years. So we just have a long history of weird stuff happening in this area over the years, and we have evidence of weird stuff happening, and then we go in there, and then all of a sudden we're getting all of this other evidence of
Mhm.
just paranormal activity, typical, what you would consider typical Bigfoot activity, but then it seems like it has just ramped up into some really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We have multiple videos now of these eyes that we're
Mhm.
catching in the woods, eyes behind me, strange sounds. Just it's such a bevy. I think somebody said we have like a smorgasbord of just weird, crazy stuff going on.
But what do we not have is that, and we're finding small footprints up there now.
Yeah.
But we're not finding anything. The ones that we found today were a little bit smaller than your foot.
Right.
But nothing even I'm like a size 12, nothing anywhere near the size of my foot up there. So I don't think it's Sasquatch that we're finding up there.
No, I don't think so either.
But I think it's other stuff, and I think it's tied into or strengthened somehow by the occult activity that's going on.
Yes.
So
do you want to, let's hit the chat a little bit before we get into the big story about what happened last night. But we will be making, of course we filmed everything that happened last night, but we are definitely going to kind of relay that story to y'all tonight. And when the video comes out, you can see for yourself, because we got it all on video, which is pretty awesome.
Well, all right, I want to put this up. Cryptid response. What if what we think is advanced technology is just manipulation of our reality by creatures not bound by the laws of our reality? We talked about that with the whole Jack Parsons thing, is that this guy really didn't have much formal education, and yet he's coming up with stuff that highly educated, postgraduate students and then their professors are not coming up with. And as a matter of fact, he's suggesting things, and then they're doing the math, and they're going, mathematically, that's impossible. That won't work. And then he goes out in the desert and does it.
Yes.
And I'm going, so what was it? Was the math wrong, or was the math right? And then whatever Jack Parsons was dealing with there manipulated our reality. And then after that manipulation, it was now possible. But it wasn't possible before.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there flat out going, this is mathematically not going to work. And then bam, he goes out and does it. And I'm just going, which is it? Because that happened several times over the course of his fairly short career.
Yeah.
So
Trista Myers says, I believe when you use mind-altering drugs, i.e. acid, shrooms, etc., it opens up your mind to things you'd never see when you're in your sober mind. Yes. So you are getting an altered state of consciousness when you use substances like that. We mentioned in the podcast about using DMT and the visions that people get when they use DMT. There are other ways that you can get into an altered state of mind that do not require narcotics or using any sort of substances. Deep meditation. People have been able to manipulate their entire nervous system just by going into deep meditation. They feel no pain. They can walk across hot coals. It's all kinds of things. They put needles directly through their arms or faces, and they have no reaction to it. There's another thing I was telling Joe about called holotropic breathing, and it was meant to be a drug-free way to process trauma and kind of go into an altered state of consciousness to process trauma. But you can also use it to access other parts of your mind and use it as sort of a conscious altering hallucinogen in a way, but it is called holotropic breathing. It's a pretty interesting concept, but it's just it's a prescribed series of breaths and lengths of breath, and it takes about an hour to get into the state required to go into that. But I think it's pretty interesting that you can do that completely drug-free and go into an altered state of consciousness. But all of this at the same time is still ritual, correct?
Yeah, it's still ritual. I mean, you mentioned DMT. Look at DMT users and the clockwork elves that they always claim that they run into. That people from different parts of the world that have never met before go into these like DMT, altered states of consciousness, and they see the same entities, and the entities seem to tell them the same thing. And every time I always read that, it seems like the entities are just kind of scratching at the surface of our reality and they want in. And
Yeah.
that was one of the things that really struck me, was just some of the parallels between all the stuff we talked about on that podcast, Thelema, Theosophy. I mean, somebody had mentioned H.P. Lovecraft on there. A lot of his stuff was based upon stuff that Blavatsky was talking about.
Mhm.
So this thing of the great old ones trying to get in, and you're just going, that sounds crazy. But then all of these people who, I mean, Jack Parsons was a brilliant guy, you know what I'm saying? And he literally, when they approached Jack Parsons and went, did you have something to do with this great UFO flap? He was like, yeah, I think I did.
Mhm.
And obviously they thought he did enough to start to really kind of keep a tabs on this thing, to try to see what they could do to try to combat it, or at least influence it a little bit. One of the things too that comes up that we're going to do a show on down the road is the idea of a shadow biosphere. So our biosphere is literally every living thing on the planet and how they interact with one another. And this bird eats these berries and deposits the seeds over here. Just the biosphere, how everything just kind of, you know, the ecology of the world. And people for a few years have been talking about a shadow biosphere, something that generated here, that the life was created here, but it's so different from us,
Mhm.
we can't see it. You always hear that about ultra terrestrial, something it's from here, but we just don't usually interact with it. Now, when they started first talking about the shadow biosphere, they were talking about microscopic life that we might look at and not realize that it's microscopic life. But you're starting to hear a lot of these people that are involved with the UAP flap talk about a shadow biosphere, but with larger life forms. That some of these things that people are seeing and are interacting with, they might. And here's the deal: it doesn't have to be all column A and all column B. There might be some things coming in from somewhere else, and there might be some things that were from here that we don't normally interact with, you know, that we didn't know they were here for it. And does that altered state of consciousness make you more susceptible to being able to realize that those shadow biosphere creatures or entities are here? So,
And you can also have the, think about it too, is there are sometimes when you see something and when there's like a UFO or a UAP or even like Sasquatch sightings, people have described that they experience these things, but their brains completely disassociate. And so even if they have something right in front of them, it's the brain can't process it at all. So it's like it's not even there at all.
that happened to us last night. So, I mean, to
a degree.
To a degree. So,
Manu says, "Are you two cultists?" We're part of the cult of Hellbent Holler. Nope,
Yeah.
we are just very inquisitive. We are very inquisitive, unfortunately, and it's leading us down strange paths. But we must do what we must do. James Barker says, "A cornucopia of craziness." Jeez, how are y'all even prepared for that? I don't think you can.
I don't think we are prepared for it. So
yeah, after last night, I don't think you can get prepared for it. We both had very different reactions to seeing something we did not know exactly what we were seeing, and we didn't know exactly how to deal with it, and we weren't quite prepared to deal with what we saw last night, and we both had very different reactions to how to approach it. So you don't I think even if you try to prepare yourself as mentally as possible for everything and as physically possible. Joe and I, of course, we talk about this all the time. We both carry weapons. We're very well read on all these subjects. We've heard of all these witness encounters, and we try to prepare ourselves mentally for what we're going to do when we encounter something. There's still that lizard brain of when you encounter something that's so foreign to you, how you're going to react. So there's no preparing for that. It just is what is. So
Stephanie Light believes that our mind can literally be a portal, much like 5-MeO, DMT, ayahuasca, holotropic breathing, or any other mind-altering experience.
Yep.
It seems like that's the case, and that pretty much precludes aliens or UAPs from being like mechanical craft piloted by alien life forms from another planet. You know, I mean, you've now left like Buck Rogers territory, and you're now back into I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? Some really weird, creepy, supernatural type stuff. So
Cryptidville has an interesting thing about Jack Parsons here. Math is wrong and skewed. He was probably initiated into a dark cult or was possessed by a demonic entity that was spouting / sharing forbidden knowledge through him.
I don't think he was possessed, but I think that he made that was our whole point on that podcast, is that he was receiving information.
He was a conduit of information.
Yeah, he was receiving conduit of information that and somebody had commented on the episode that we just released that in the universal scheme of things, rocket fuel was not that big of a deal, and they wouldn't share something so small. And I'm going, to them it's small, but to 1940s America, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
You know, these revelations on how to basically start up our space program at that point. I mean, that was the first step. Before Jack Parsons, they thought that it would be impossible to leave Earth's gravitational field because the amount of fuel that you would need to carry would be so heavy that you'd never be able to break out of gravity. And then Jack Parsons, just, with no college education, just blowing up stuff in the desert, goes, hey, let's try this. They look at it, they go, that's impossible. That's not going to work. And he does it anyway, and it works. I think he got that information from somewhere. So
War Criminal 7, this is a tech question. War Criminal 7 says, how well does a GoPro record in the woods as far as a microphone? So we use a GoPro Hero 8 Black, and it does a pretty good job.
It's going to record up close sound pretty well. Actually, for as far as action cams go, there's a reason why GoPro is the gold standard, because we'd used a couple of fairly well thought of action cams that weren't GoPros, and the mics left a little bit to be desired on it.
And the camera itself is actually water resistant. I know in the earlier versions of the cameras, you had to have them in a case, and then you had no audio whatsoever. So the later versions the camera itself is actually water resistant. So it's a lot easier to use those because you can actually have the microphone working, and you don't have to have an outside microphone running because you have the camera in a case. So the camera itself is actually water resistant.
But be aware, though, that a few times now we've sometimes caught some of the stuff that we're hearing with our own ears out there, and it's caught on film.
Mm-hmm.
Other times you'll see us react to stuff, and then people are just up in arms because it's not on the video, because the mics were not powerful enough to pick it up.
Yeah.
So you run into that. I mean, your best bet would probably be to carry a full-size camcorder with a shotgun mic, but I mean, we can't navigate through the woods carrying all of that stuff. Everything, it's a trade-off.
Yeah, because we have to have equipment that's light enough and versatile enough and agile enough to go through the woods with us. The GoPro is great for daytime use. It's wonderful. We put it on top of that stick that is actually a charging stick, and we're able to, if we do this all the time, we're going over a log or going up or down a hill, we hand the camera off to each other and help each other up and down stuff. So it's nice to have a camera that's agile like that. I know if you're doing what would be considered traditional paranormal investigations, where you're in a house and you have a nice large camera with a shotgun mic, you can get better audio for sure. But what we're doing is so much more fluid, and what we're doing is kinetic, and we're having to move through dangerous and difficult environments on a regular basis, all while filming what we're doing, and also dealing with the fact that we're surrounded by possible cryptids or paranormal entities or demonic entities. So it's a lot to deal with. So we kind of had to negotiate on that, but it's nice to have something that we can get the footage, but you're not always going to get the best audio out of it.
Dead End Yard Hunt. This makes my brain hurt. Join the club. Join the club, because I mean, in the process of looking into all of this stuff, there were several times that we just both stopped and went, all right, I need to step away for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because now it's branching off into something else. The whole concept of this just seems crazy, but there seems to be, it seems to be that a certain amount of this is in fact true. And that's hard to comprehend. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's hard to comprehend for me.
And it's hard to accept. It is so hard to accept, even if it's something you've experienced or you've seen. It's during the course of us doing this research, and we'll just stop, and we're just can we just, no.
Yeah.
No. Manu here says, Playing a dangerous game. Yes, but what else are we going to do? Are we going to go
Yeah.
golfing? No.
Red Wolf said the invention of jet fuel, rocket fuel, exactly led to our ability to incinerate the entire planet with nuclear weapons. I'd say it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, I mean, again, it basically turned America into a superpower, started the space race, gave us the ability to have intercontinental ballistic missiles. It was a huge deal as far as what we were doing. But at the same token, and we mentioned upon this as well, that was part of the thing that really the people in the government who believe in the diabolical hypothesis and are trying to work against it, they know that there's so much manipulation and it's going on to such a level that they themselves didn't know whether the actions they were taking were being directed by demonic forces or not. So they get into this harsh indecision where they can't seem to do anything because they don't know whether they're being manipulated in that area. So with them if they gave Jack Parsons the ability to make this rocket fuel, the knowledge to do this, obviously they wanted us set on that path for some reason. So what's the reason for that? I don't know. Maybe we don't know yet. Maybe that plan hasn't come to fruition. So
Cryptid Build says we brought SS scientists over with Operation Paperclip, who were into a cult heavily. Makes sense to me that our military followed suit. I know nothing. I love life. I am not suicidal.
yeah, I mean,
yeah. And I think we mentioned it in the podcast that Werner von Braun, who was brought over in Operation Paperclip, was in correspondence with Jack Parson when they were teenagers.
Exactly. And Werner von Braun and it's weird because you find old references to him being in like the Thule Society and the Vril Society, and then it just kind of gets wiped out. And then the next thing you know, he's making, films for Disney.
Yeah.
But it looks like he was in the Vril Society that was like really ensconced in like the German rocketry program. And then meanwhile, Jack Parsons is in like the OTO with Aleister Crowley. And then he's in, basically the godfather of American rocketry. So and again, these are not unintelligent people. These are not like just some meth billies out there, worshiping Satan and,
No.
people with like, an IQ of like 80 out there, like, doing this stuff. These are extremely intelligent people who have an extremely good grasp on the fundamental forces of reality, who think that, well, they don't even think that they seem to know, they are convinced that there are interdimensional forces that you can communicate with
or manipulate. They think they can manipulate.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that you would think that, well, who would do this? Well, a lot of those people are so intelligent, or they've been in positions of power for so long, they start to think that they're going to be able to control the situation.
Yeah.
And they probably can't. So
no, that's why you never make a deal with the devil.
Exactly. So
we have a compliment here. Don't pass those up.
Oh,
Christopher Levens. How would you say that? Levens says, I'm highly impressed with these two on this channel. They have definitely done their due diligence. Keep up the good work, guys. It is a lot of work. We enjoy doing it. It is very disturbing at times, but yeah, we love doing it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for joining us.
Take Two Wheels, something for hearing enhancement. We have Howard Leet Impact earmuffs that will turn up the volume basically for everything around you, but then will muffle any like loud percussive noises. So you shoot with them, you can have them turned up all the way, and then as you shoot, it deadens the gunshots. They're just clumsy for us, at least in the woods.
Yeah.
And they're hot, and we have a tendency that when you wear them, you start to talk louder. So they don't quite work for us, but other people, use them for different stuff. And they do work well for what their intended purpose are. And you can get them off Amazon.
Yeah.
Pretty inexpensively. But Howard Leet, I'll send you a email link to it when we get off of here. So
yeah, they're pretty handy.
Yeah.
They're very handy. Sometimes we'll just go out at night and just listen with them. Awesome.
Chris Levins, the Nazis didn't lose the war. They just relocated to America. Exactly.
Why are there so many Germans in Huntsville, Alabama?
Yeah. I mean, it was weird to kind of go down that. And it's just, you look at it and I go, why is it? What was it about the rocket program of arguably the two strongest countries in the world at that point? Both of them kind of like racing towards trying to like perfect rocket technology. And the guys on both sides are basically all just like occultists at this point. Well, not necessarily on the American side that we know of. Jack Parsons is the big one,
Mm-hmm.
but there weren't that many people over here either. 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah.
So one out of that,
start.
20%, 25% of our rocketry program was really enmeshed in the occult. And then it was,
I think during our research, we found hints that Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, was actually involved in some occult dealings. But we've got to do some more research into that. But that was loosely mentioned in some of our research that we did into Jack Parsons and the American rocketry program as well. So I thought that was an interesting little side note. Amber's Pair World. Hello, Amber. How are you? Yep, we appreciate you. Matt Keenan just finished watching the Dark Dive video. It was great. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. We were just talking about that earlier, that it can be kind of a polarizing subject, and how we approach it can be a little polarizing, but that's okay.
So let's get back now that we're caught up with the chat here a little bit.
Yeah.
So we had that audio come up. We captured that stuff on the audio. Now, when we didn't know what all we had captured until we got home and reviewed it the next day, but we did hear the clicking and the growling when we got back to retrieve the recorder. We didn't see those eyes, but we did hear that. You saw us kind of like take a second, kind of regroup, and then go into the brush after it. We couldn't find what it was. Whatever it was there was just not there anymore. How it got away without making noise, we don't know. We do know that there was something to the right of us because you pick up the eyes on the full spectrum camera that we were using. We came home the next day. I'm reviewing the audio, and then especially when I got to the section that sounded like our names, that was extremely distressing to hear. You're hearing the humming, everything like that. So anyway, I put in my backpack when I told just this, like, did I tell you last night or today about this?
You told me last night when we got home.
When we got home. So I put in my backpack, I had a little glass vial that I got from Italy that has blessed black salt in it, and then another one that has holy water in it. And I put that in my backpack, and I just put it in there. I'm just thinking, just in case, because we've talked in the past that we don't usually carry like protective type stuff with us in that manner, because we're not wanting to chase the activity away.
We tend to leave that stuff here.
But I took it with me. I had it in my backpack. We went out the following weekend after catching that audio to check the area out, and didn't have anything happen at all. Literally nothing happened at all. We went and loaded for bear. I've got like a shotgun with us, everything like that. We go back in there, and we've got the footage on that. We'll probably release it, but nothing really happens.
I guess you went loaded for demonic bear.
Demonic bear,
you walked in there with a shotgun and a
holy water and
holy
all that.
Water. Yeah.
But nothing happened. And then we went out into the area that has been dead for a while, but you know what, that area might just be dead now, but nothing happened then. We went out last night, and not much happened at first. I've got that holy water and that black salt in my backpack. So we were going to relocate up to a different area, which is the area where
we sorry to interrupt you, but we even did another drop recorder at that tree where we got that audio.
Nothing happened.
And nothing had happened. We listened to the audio as soon as we got in, and you can hear raindrops. That's it. Yeah. We left it there for a while.
No humming, no clicking, no growling, nothing.
So we redid that kind of experiment. We were trying to recreate that experiment to see if anything else would happen there.
So we were going to go up to the area where you've seen us in previous videos. We found that climbing gear that had been thrown up in the tree really, really high. And then where we had found that sigil, that hex mark, whatever you want to call it,
behind
with that handprint behind our tent. I had seen like a green light that kind of irised out that was up in there. So we hadn't been back up in there for a while. So we were going to try to go up to that area. So we hike back down to the vehicle, we go, and then we can't quite get up there. The road's too washed out. So we backtracked back a little bit, and we decided we were going to go check out another spot. So we're driving down these old gravel roads. It's nighttime. The fog is lifted up a little bit. It was extremely foggy at first.
It was insanely foggy yesterday.
But it had lifted up a bit. And we're driving, and for some reason I look out the window and I'm like, hey, we've never checked over here before. Let's check out the side of this mountain real quick. Just real briefly. We'll just hop out. So we get out. We have our pistols with us. We have a camera. You have a thermal imager.
Yeah.
We have the personal locator beacon. I don't take my backpack with us.
I took my backpack.
I didn't
though.
take mine. Remember
But
this one?
mine does not contain holy water or black salt. I had my backpack, but I didn't have any of that
I
stuff.
almost went back for it because my GPS unit's on there.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, she's got her personal locator beacon. It's got a GPS unit in there. We can access that with the phone if we have to. But I left all of that in the car, and we hike up. We find this old, what looks like an old roadbed. We hike up the side of this mountain, and then we get up there, and we start looking around, and we're seeing some of the same stuff we saw in the area where those occultists were hanging out at and operating in. And we're going, whoa, did they like relocate over here? Because it seems like they've disappeared from the area that we've been going to. So we're on this old roadbed. So I'm going, all right, we're going further than what I wanted us to go, but I'm not going all the way back to get my backpack and my GPS unit. We'll just stay on this old roadbed. So that way, if we need to get out of here, we'll just follow the old roadbed back down and we'll be okay, but we won't get off this roadbed. So we proceed to go up the side of this mountain last night. And Jessie thought she saw something in the tree.
Okay, so yeah, so there's a large old tree ahead of us, and I'm in front, and I'm walking, and I see what looks like I said, oh, I just saw an animal run up the tree, and it was like solid white, and it ran straight up the side of the tree. And Joe was like, and this is the middle of the night, and Joe was like, well, how big was that? And I was like, oh, it was the size of a small dog. And he goes, what is the size of a small dog out here? I was like, I guess nothing, but it was like, it was this big, but it went straight up the side of this big old tree. So that was weird.
It was weird, but then again, it wasn't, we couldn't find anything on the thermal for it, but you know what? It could have been, I don't know. It could have been, that's not outside the realm of
a possibility
that it was just some regular little forest mammal running up the side of a tree.
The world's largest albino squirrel. So yeah.
So we're there, we get up to the top of this hill, and we kind of come to a stop, and Jessie's glassing around with the thermal scope.
And I look around 3 times. I did a 360 with the thermal 3 times. And looking, Joe's in there. He's like, all right.
I've got the camera.
He's like, there's nothing going on out here. Let's go. And so I go around, I look around very slowly 3 times all around us. We have great visibility because
nowhere near as thick as the area we've been operating in.
These are all mostly pine trees through here. So these are tall pine trees, not a lot of lower limbs. So we have great visibility in every direction. So I'm going around very slowly. I go around 3 times very slowly with the thermal. I was using the AGM thermal, and I'm operating that. I see nothing. Nothing
at all. I've got the full spectrum action cam, and I'm going around with it, and I've got a real high intensity flashlight, and I'm just kind of hitting it on at various times, just see if I can catch any eye shine, do anything like that at all. Nothing at all. Nothing in the slightest. So
I put away my thermal.
Yeah, she puts her thermal away, and we get ready to leave to follow this old roadbed back down to the car. And then Jessie just goes, what is that? And I'm like, what is what? I'm thinking maybe she saw something in the tree again, and she's like, what's that over there? And there's this ball of light and the trees.
And when I say
just a few feet off the ground.
And I don't mean he doesn't, when he says a ball of light, I don't mean a baseball of light. It was,
I don't know. I don't have a scale of reference.
It had to be probably 10, 15 feet tall.
Yes.
And round. Like the diameter of it had to have been 10 to 15 feet. It was huge. And it was at the top of this hill. We have full visibility.
Less than 100 yards?
Yeah.
Less than 75 yards.
It's huge. And it's golden. It's just got this golden light coming out.
I thought it was a campfire for a split second. And I'm going, how did somebody get a campfire lit that large that quickly? Because we were just looking over here.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it's not a fire. It's not flickering like flame. It's a solid.
And it was round. It was perfectly round. It was perfectly round. It wasn't a fire. It was perfectly round. And I'm like,
and it's just right there, right at or slightly above ground level.
And I keep just going, what is, if you guys have watched any of my videos, when I see something crazy, I'm just like, what is that? What is that? So I'm like, do you want to go to it? And he's like behind me, and I'm just going through the woods towards it. And he grabs me and he goes, no, stop. So we film it. We're filming this entire time. We're filming it with the Phasm full spectrum cam.
Now, keep in mind the Phasm camera, it's a small action cam.
Yeah.
We have caught up close small lights before, especially in the LBL when we went. but a lot of times we'll see things at a distance and you can't pick them up. It's just a little action camera. It's the size of a GoPro. The fact that you were able to pick this up on this shows how big and how bright it was.
Yes.
Because
so in the footage, you have this light, and I'm kind of moving around, and you can see it. You can see the spot of light in it, but there's no zoom on this camera or anything. So I'm just holding it. Of course, we're also flabbergasted while watching this. We're standing there. I'm filming it, but you can see it right there. You can see it. And so I hand him the camera, and I pull out the thermal. So I pull out the thermal because I want to see, is this thing, what is this? So I just pull out the thermal, I pull out the AGM, and then I find it and I hit record. So I have thermal footage of this as well. This thing, and I had it on red hot. Everything around it's cold. This thing was giving off heat. It was giving off heat. So it's not like we looked up in the sky and saw like a star, a moon, or something like that, and was mistaken for that. This thing was producing
heat.
So
she's like, I want to go to it. And I'm going, hold on, because I'm seeing like figures around it on foot. I'm seeing like what looks like figures walking like in a counterclockwise like position in front of it. And I'm going, I think there's people there. Hold on, because I'm still trying to think, all right, what could somebody have out here that's it's not a campfire, it's not a lantern, it's not an electric light.
It's huge.
It's huge, but I'm thinking I see people there. We don't go there because it might be these people that we think are doing like occult practices up there. These aren't campers, but I'm just trying to get a frame of reference as to what I'm seeing and what these people are, if these are people, what they're doing. So I grab her and kind of keep her back from going. And when we put the video out, you'll see we're both kind of excited at that point. And it kind of decreases in size and intensity. We think it's going out, and then it just flares right back up.
Yeah.
But it's
starts to
rise up a little bit. And then when it starts to rise, I'm taller than she is by about a foot and some odd inches. So I'm looking and I'm seeing these what look like figures walking like kind of in front, and they're being illuminated from up and from the rear, but you can kind of see like right now, my face is being illuminated from here. And if it was completely pitch black, back here would be dark, but you'd be able to see the side of my face was illuminated. And that's what I'm seeing. And I'm going, there's like figures there. So we start to leave out, and whatever it is starts to rise up like and goes up into like the treetops and then disappears. So at that point, I'm going, where are the things that were on the ground at this point? I mean, are those people? What is it? So we left out because we don't have a GPS with us.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until when I got back to the car, I'm going, she's like, why wouldn't you like let me go up to it? I'm going, I don't have my GPS. All we know is this old roadbed. We're not familiar with this part of the forest. If we go off, there might be things on the ground in here. We don't know how we're going to be able to get back to the car. And I'm going, I should have brought my GPS. And that's when I went, wait, I didn't have my backpack. And that's when I told her, I said, I've been carrying like holy water and like black salt with us the past 2 times. Nothing's happened to us. I didn't have my backpack this time. Whether that's a coincidence, I don't know.
It's an odd coincidence.
It's an odd coincidence. And it was the first thing that leapt in my mind.
So,
but we
were jazzed. Like we were like, oh my God.
We've seen lights in the forest so many times that at this point, it's kind of like old hat.
But it's usually a pinpoint of light that we'll see in the forest.
And it'll dance around.
It'll come, it'll show up in the distance and then disappear, or it'll move or something like that.
The ones in like Lost Cove were
responsive.
Yeah. They would follow us, and then they would jet up the side of the mountain, and then they would come back. So those were weird, but
this was something
we've
entirely
never seen anything like this at all before.
This was in something entirely different.
We don't know what to call it. The file that we've got it all saved on the computer, I just put it as UFO because I'm going, it went into the air. And as you were hiking down out, we're now to the mountains on our left. You see it going up into the trees. We went back today.
And we had that on camera too, where we're trying to go down the mountain and you see it rising into the trees up there.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
So we had something we had to do today, but then as soon as we got done, we grabbed stuff and we went back up there to check it out in the daytime. And from where we were at, looking at that, it's the top of the hill, but behind it is all mountains and forests. And I'm going,
it drops right off, right? So the hill crests and then it drops right off on the other side.
And I'm like, so it's nothing that was in the sky. It's not the moon,
because the mountains behind that are above that,
and the moon doesn't give off red hot heat on a thermal image either.
No, that's the thing.
We don't know what it was. And I don't know what the things were on the ground. But I mean, they're just moving left to right. I don't know if there was just 2 of them. There was more than one. It could have been a bunch of them because we don't know how big this thing was. I mean, they could have been like circling around it. And I don't know if they were still on the ground when this thing left. I mean, and we didn't see it fly off. It rose up into the treetops, and then it got dimmer, and then it was just gone.
I can't wait for you guys to see this footage. And I was talking to Ron from Wildemere, West Virginia. Of course, I got home, I messaged him, I sent him a still from the video, and you can see it's in the woods. You know, it's some of the video, it's just in the blackness, but you can see when we pass our flashlights, this is in the woods. It's in the woods.
Right at ground level, or maybe a foot or two above.
But the fact that, I mean, I pulled out that thermal. I'm so glad I pulled out that thermal. I'm glad I thought to do that. I pulled my thermal out. I have a little pouch. I keep it in on my belt. I pulled out that thermal. I fired that thing up and I hit record. So I got the video where it has, you can see like the tree, it's behind a tree. While I'm recording it, but it is producing heat. It is producing heat. And I got it simultaneously while we were recording it with the full spectrum cam. So it's so wild.
So we don't know what we saw.
Yeah. We have no idea.
And she was even asking me, she was like, were those people around it? I'm like, I don't know, because I got the impression of like upright figures, but I was only seeing it where they were kind of getting illuminated from the side opposite us as they were going around it. And I'm going, I don't know. I mean, they seemed like just upright, just like bipedal things, but they didn't, I don't have a sense of scale for them. They could have been 3 feet tall or 7 feet tall. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we went back up there today and we took
well, you know, talk about the drive home. Like on the drive home, normally I'm always cold. Like I'm always cold. And so, and I have like a lot of layers on, but I took my jacket off and I just had like my sweater on. I was like, my face was burning. We stopped halfway home and went in somewhere. And Joe was like, your face is red, because my face was just burning after this. I'm okay today, but it was just absolutely red and burning after we had this like sighting of whatever the heck this is.
So we go back today.
Yeah.
And it was going to have to be a real quick trip, because actually, and that's why when we got here, we just threw the stuff in the living room and then got all this set up and then jumped on here. But we went back up there today and hiked back up and took some instrumentation with us. When you go into the area where we saw the light at, it's a flat spot on top of the hill there. And the vegetation has all been like knocked down, cut down. You're going through like knee-high, like brambles until you get to that area, and then they're all like not as high as your ankles. So I don't know if that's been eaten down or whatever, or if it's only eaten down there. Why not anywhere else? A lot of the trees up there are like scorched. Now they have done controlled burns in this area before, and you do occasionally see that. That's not really a prime spot because the foliage is so thin through there. It's not really a prime spot for it, but that's possible. And it wasn't freshly scorched. At least it didn't appear to be. Nothing was smoking or steaming or anything like that, but it's also been cold and wet. So we find in the middle of the hill, there's this burnt stump, and then next to it is one of the same symbols on the ground that we've been finding in the clearing near what we call that audio.
And we have found several times before.
And that we found behind our tent.
On this mountain. So if you watch that video where we find that, what we refer to as a sigil with the mud in the middle and the handprint, it is the exact same sigil created out of sticks, was on top of that mountain, right where whatever that orb sphere thing was. It was right there when we went back today. And it's surrounded by burnt limbs and stuff. There's a burnt stump there, and it was the exact same sigil right there on the ground when we walked up.
So we're catching weird spikes on the tri-field meter that we don't catch in other parts of the forest. We were catching weird high like RF frequencies going between like the low 1.5 gigahertz up to about like almost 1.7 gigahertz. We don't have any cell reception up there. There's no radio towers up through there. There's just not a lot of stuff up there, and that's really high that's not really used for commercial radio anyway. That you're getting up into like military communications and above, like when you get into that level of RF signal, that frequency.
I was using the tri-field and I was getting, I think it topped out at 33 when it spiked when I was using the tri-field, but I would just get spikes. of electromagnetic signal, and I just don't know what would cause something to have just spikes of it.
Yeah, and then we were catching 3 times background normal on the Geiger counter around this sigil or this hex mark or whatever you want to call it. But it's about where we saw that ball of fire. It's not huge. It's not like we're getting like giant doses of like radiation and we had to haul out of there, but it was 3 times above the normal background radiation that we get in that particular neck of the woods. I don't know. I mean, I even walked down the hill and around and tested. I didn't pick up higher levels of radiation anywhere except for near that hex mark.
Yeah.
And we don't know if that hex mark is exactly where that ball of light was because it looks like it.
Pretty close, because it was at the crest of that hill. The highest point is where it was, because when we stopped, we were at the crest of where we were, and then that went straight up from there, and that's exactly where that was. Because we went up right from where we were standing last night. We went straight up that hill, and we were there at the crest, and that's where the light was.
So we don't know what it is. We don't know if you'd consider it I don't know if it's like I mean, we saw a weird, strange, very large ball of light, and when we were reviewing the footage, you can see smaller little balls, and I'm looking at it going, I think that's where I was seeing the light reflect off those things walking around it. But it's an action cam at a distance, and I think it's just showing up as like just a little ball of light. But it was weird. And I even say as we're walking down, I'm going, listen, there were figures walking around that, like figures. And she's like, well, what were they? Where'd they go? And I'm like, I don't know. That's why we're getting out of here, because the light's gone. Are those figures still here? Because now we're in a unfamiliar part of the woods.
In the dark.
The dark, no GPS. It's the fog's rising back up again. And you guys will see in the footage that the fog was like super thick, man. I mean, there was a constant struggle because the IR light that we use for our camera, too weak and it wouldn't penetrate the fog. Too strong and it would just reflect back from the fog. All you would see is like a white mist in front of the camera. So I was constantly trying to juggle it to just basically be able to get some sort of like visibility on the camera. And when you did, you could actually see better with the camera than you could with your naked eye.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what we saw. And we've seen some weird stuff doing this.
That was
the weirdest thing.
That was the weirdest thing we've ever seen. Yeah.
So, and I don't know what
because we're standing there and we're looking at this. It's not like we're seeing it with a thermal, like with
we did. We saw it with our naked eye, the camera, and a thermal.
Yes, we did see it with all those, but the fact that we're standing there and we're having like a full-fledged conversation, like, oh my God, are you watching this? I think, how long do we have a footage of it? Like 6 minutes? Like it just...
I don't think it was quite that long.
But it felt like forever. But like we're just standing there and it's just there. It's happening right in front of us. And I'm just looking at this thing. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, I wanted to just book it. I wanted to run right towards it.
Yeah,
I was
and
like,
if you could see it, because I had the camera in this hand, I actually have to grab her by her backpack, like the carry handle on her backpack, and jerk her back.
because I'm like, I've got to see what this is, and I'm just going through the brambles,
and we're fighting on the way down the mountain. We're arguing, like she doesn't understand why she couldn't go towards it, and that's when I go, listen, there were figures, and you hear me say it up there. I go, I think there's people there, and then I'm going, are those? And I still don't know. Those might have been just normal people around this weird orb of light that lifted off. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had seen that. I think Mothman had mentioned something about ball lightning. Yeah, trust me, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with ball lightning, earth lights, piezoelectric effect. We live near the Brown Mountain lights. When we started seeing these weird lights in the woods, I looked at everything: foxfire, will-o-wisps, everything like that. I'm very conversant with all of that. If this was ball lightning, it didn't follow the usual travel that ball lightning is said to have, and there were just people gathered around ball lightning, just circling it. It
was wild. It was so wild.
I'm
telling you, you guys are gonna flip.
We're gonna try to, because we're obviously using a small action cam, and to be honest with you, filming it was almost the last thing on our minds. I'm surprised we have the footage that we have.
Yeah,
but it's a little shaky in certain parts, so we're gonna see if we can try to
zoom and stabilize a little bit.
Almost like they did with the Patterson-Gimlin film. Remember, it used to be shaky, and then basically they focus in on Patty, and then everything else shakes, but she stays solid.
But
We're
I'm
gonna see if we
not.
can do that with the light. on
I'm
this,
not
so.
I'm not an expert at editing. I do all the editing for all of our videos and everything we do. I do all the editing for it, but I'm self-taught, so I'm not entirely great at that. So if you know a quick way to kind of do that for Adobe Premiere Pro, email me at helvinholler@gmail.com if you can tell me exactly how to stabilize and focus in on one thing on there, because it is a little shaky, because also we're flipping out. Like,
Yeah.
we're flipping out because this is just this is happening before our eyes. This is so wild. It is just so wild.
Cryptid response. This happened last night, and if I remember correctly, the lights in West Virginia that we were talking about were 3 nights ago, but this was last night. This was literally last night. We came home, unpacked, did a video review. I knew we were going back out today, so I recharged all the relevant equipment that we would need. We went and took care of some stuff today, and then as soon as we were done, we jumped in and ran up there. So we've seen little weird lights in the woods, usually winking on and off, usually in areas with other strange stuff. I am sure that some of them have had a natural explanation.
Yeah.
Some of them have had a natural explanation.
Yeah.
Some of the ones in the LBL, no. The ones in Lost Cove, definitely not. The one that I saw that night that just kind of winked out, and then we walked up to it and found that hex symbol, no. This one, I don't know what it was, but it was big. And the fact that you can see it on the action cam at all, given the distance on it, we usually can't pick up anything anywhere near that far on the action cam.
Yeah.
And it's on the action cam. You can see it. You can see detail to it. And then when we're leaving out, you see it going up higher into the air and stuff like that.
It was wild. It was so wild.
Super wild.
Cryptid response says, "Release first, stabilize later, people."
Yeah, we'll release it. We've got to just get it up. We've got to get it processed and then do something like that. But we are going to next weekend we're going back up there, and that'll be the area that we go in and start to look in, because we've never been where we go to is very sizable area, and it abuts up to national forests.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the space up there is huge, and we've been focusing most of our efforts on the spot where we found that audio at. And now we're going, okay, we've got to go over here. This is a whole nother area to explore at this point then. So
yeah, we're talking 150,000 acres, 170,000
that's
acres.
just in this one little section that's butted up to a national forest that is even larger. So
Matt Keenan says, the government is going to come visit you too soon and make you repeat that it was just swamp gas.
I don't know what it was, man. It was so bright. And it looked like a ball of liquid light. I mean, it was just, and when I'm looking at it, it as bright as it was, it should have lit up that entire section of the forest. And instead, it just seemed like just the area directly in front of it and below it were lit up. And even then, not to the level that it should have been with something that bright. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know if it's, again, I don't know how to describe it and go, we had a UFO encounter. I don't know if that's what it was. I don't know what it was. And it wasn't just a ball of light. It wasn't like the weird little balls of light. It was something like we've never seen before. And then when you factor in that those things walking around the bottom of it, I don't know what it, and that's where I was just going. I was like, did those figures leave with a light, or is the light gone? And now there's whatever was there
in the woods with us.
And it had to see us because we tried to hit it with a flashlight a few times.
Yeah.
Whoever was there with it had to know we were there because we had been standing there for a while, like 10 minutes or so, right?
Yeah.
Flashlighting around, talking. And then even after it started up, I hit it with my flashlight. I've got a really high intensity flashlight. And I'm hitting it with air, trying to see it. And I'm just going, all I'm seeing is these figures. So if they were people, they knew we were there. And if they weren't people, they knew we were there, So that's why we hauled on out. So
Rob S goes, "Lordy girl, slow your roll. We need you alive and well."
Thank you, Jill Duck. I appreciate that. So
thank you, Jill. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome.
And the thing about week after week, that's what we talked about as we were going. We'll go. Sometimes people will go, "Hey, when's your next field investigation video coming out?" And we go, "Nothing's happened. I mean, it's just been quiet." And we don't want to just release footage of us,
wandering through the woods,
and then, just those fake scares where one of us trips and yells and you think it's something happening. And now Joe just tripped over a limb. So, but it seems like more weird stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And it seems like, that's, again, people are going to go, "Oh, well, that's just a ball of light." Yeah, it was a ball of light that was so close to us. And there's I've never seen anything like it. I mean, out of all the weird stuff we've done, that
Well,
was the
and
weirdest
that's
thing that's
why,
happened to
that's
us.
primarily why we went back today. We went back to the spot today because we were like, okay, let's go and see if we can kind of debunk what the heck this could have been. But we went to the spot. We filmed all around the spot. You can see that the mountains on the other side are higher, so we know it's not like a giant super moon rising up or
Mhm.
anything like that. I have no idea what it was. We went up there, we
Yeah.
filmed all around there, and then the fact that that hex mark, that sigil, was at the exact spot where that thing was one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen. Like, it's just everything up there is connected, and that symbol means something. It has something to do with this.
Chad Wolfschlegdensteinhausen asked if could it be a drone. It could have been a exceptionally large, completely quiet drone with a spotlight under it with some sort of diffused filter
That was 10
That-
feet big, 10
that
feet.
yeah, that was just almost the size of a small helicopter, and it could have been people out there testing an experimental drone who fired it up. I guess they stood there in complete darkness for 10 minutes while we were standing there, and then just fired it up, and then it just went up and then cut all lights and left off. I can't rule that out. It's a possibility. Even then, because it looked liquid. It looked like a ball of like,
When you
liquid
said a
light.
ball of liquid light, that's a great description.
yeah, it
for
looks
that.
like a ball of liquid light. And when we put the video out, you'll see it. Now you have to realize that
Of course, in the video, it looks like just a big point
but the
of
fact
light.
that we got it on there at all, and what we need to do
Is
is
amazing.
we need to do a test where we actually take lights out in the woods.
We can
and-
go to that spot.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
put a light there and then film it with the camera and
Yeah,
show
it's a
the
good idea.
difference, because we're not even going to pick most lights up.
Yeah.
You're not going to pick most lights up because, again, it's a small little action camera. It's made for what we use. We use a full spectrum camera
Mhm.
because we seem to catch stuff better on full spectrum than we do on just traditional night vision. But it's made for like ghost hunters. It's made mostly to be used indoors.
Yeah.
We rigged it up to that external power supply, and we carry like freezer lock bags with us. So in case it starts raining on us, we can throw the freezer lock bag over it to keep it protected. But it's great on short distances, but past 50, 60 feet, 75 feet,
You
100,
lose a lot.
you lose a lot of stuff on there. And it's just because it's not meant to be like a long distance camera. It has no zoom to it. So the fact that we catch it at all is like,
Yeah.
it's insane. It's
Yeah, but
absolutely
I like your idea of doing like an experiment
Yeah.
up there. Let's go up there at night and put a light out there, and then I will have the camera and film the light from there and compare the footage between those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's. I
mean, it's we do this stuff all the time, and we sometimes talk about how we'll experience or see weird stuff, and we kind of downplay it just because, I mean, we've seen so many lights in the woods at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not, I mean, it's interesting, and we will go towards it and see if we can try to like figure other stuff, but it's not really something that, that shakes us to our core anymore, just because we've experienced it. This shook us to our core.
This was a whole other thing. This was like something
Yeah.
completely different. This was something completely new. This was not what we would call an orb or anything like that. This was something else entirely.
I don't know what it was.
This was something else entirely. I'm shocked at what we saw.
It's weird for
truly
us to
shocked.
have. She was like, and if you watch it, you'll listen to her voice, because she's just like, I feel like I need to go towards it. Is exactly what she says at one point. I feel like I need to go towards it, and that's when I grab her. You can't see it on camera because thank God, because all of you guys would be turning me in for like,
spousal
domestic abuse because I just grab her by the back of the backpack and yank her back. And then we're going down, we're arguing like down, and I'm trying to watch this light, and she's upset, and I'm just going, you don't understand, there were figures around that. Where are the figures at now? Do we have people that are like surrounding us in the woods right now? I mean, or what was it? So we've got to get out of here until we can come back. So we went back today and checked it out. And we find what looks like small footprints up there.
scorch marks,
And
and then the
weird
hex mark.
weird RF stuff, weird EM fields.
Yeah, and we've got data now, so we have like hard data too. We took all of our
we took like weather measurements up there and everything like that. It's like the humidity and everything like that, just to try to get every sort of bit of data that we can up there. But it's weird. I don't know, man. It's weird. To me, in a way, the fact that it you and I had such visceral opposite responses to it.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, we need to get out of here now. And you were like, I feel like I need to go towards it, you know?
Well, Christopher 11 says Satan comes as an angel of light.
Yeah. And, you know, but I mean, that's the thing is that when we first see it, and you'll hear all this, but of course, if you even want to watch it after hearing us babble about it for an hour, but you'll hear me go, what is that? Is that like a campfire? And then I go, are there people there? I think there's people there because I just see what looks like figures just kind of circling it, walking back, and they weren't walking back and forth because they were only going from like left to right. So then I guess they were going around it and then coming back around, and I just couldn't see them because of the light. They were on the opposite side of it.
So Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, could it be a helicopter?
No,
I do not think
no,
so.
It definitely wasn't a helicopter.
It was in the woods. Like it was in the woods.
In the trees.
The trees, like amongst the trees. There were trees behind it.
And we would have
seen in front of it.
You would have seen the detail of that. We would have heard it. It wasn't a helicopter.
It was one round light, like he said, a liquid light, a round ball of liquid light.
But at one point, and you'll even see it, it seems like it stretches out. When it starts to lift up, it seems like it stretches out a little bit. And then when we catch it, because when we were leaving, I've got the camera, she's ahead of me, so I'm trying to watch out for her. I'm trying to watch my own footing because we're basically going down an old, it's not even a road anymore. You could tell it was cleared for a road at first, but there's trees everywhere.
It's like a washout.
Yeah, so we're going through the dark woods in the middle of the night, and I'm trying to watch to see if like whatever those figures were, where are they at? But we caught the light in the upper kind of like right-hand corner of the action cam, and I'm watching that every once in a while. But at one point, I'm not even watching that because I'm more concerned about what's on the ground. But you see it like lifting up. It's not a chop. It's not a helicopter.
No.
I don't know. I mean, the ball lightning. Does somebody know how to harness ball lightning? And is that what these people were doing?
I think we got bigger problems.
I mean, if that's just as weird as anything else. There's a group of people there that are generating ball lightning, and while they move around it, and it's not. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we're
conjuring ball lightning. Jay Myers says Jesse looks like the look must be cold in your area tonight. So we came back from the mountain. We got off the mountain and drove home. And as soon as we walked in the door, fired everything up and started this live stream. So we just got back. So I'm still wearing my hat from where we were up on the mountain. James Barker says, well, Jessie is a magpie. She was trying to figure out how to take the giant shiny thing home.
Yeah,
or the giant shiny thing was trying to figure out how to take me home. Yeah.
So. All right. Let's catch up some of this. So that is what happened to us last night. And we went back today and did it. So next week when we go up, what we're going to do is we're going to go up and scout that area around during the daytime. And then we're going to set up on that hill. Yeah. And we're going to we have to balance the ability to move quickly with trying to get some sort of instrumentation up there.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is that we'll run the full spectrum cam and a thermal, and then we'll probably each have something. I'll probably have the Geiger counter. You'll probably have the tri-field meter. And we will see what we can get. We will probably stage during the daytime a couple of long duration audio recorders up there and have those running before it gets dark, and then try to retrieve them the next day. So that's our plan for next week.
Rob S asks, did you guys hear any sound?
Nothing at all.
Static?
Nothing in the slightest.
Nope.
Nothing in the slightest.
Nope.
Even when it started to kind of lift up and everything like that, completely quiet. The whole woods were completely quiet. I mean, we were standing on the hilltop. At this point, we're just checking out a new area that, to us, the woods were dead that night. We weren't really.
I heard something kind of come through the brush, but we didn't know what that could be.
Yeah, that was in the other area, though. And
yeah.
That gave us a startle. Yeah. And then what's weird is I totally forgot about that after the light incident. Yeah, you did hear that thing.
Yeah, something came through the brush. Yeah, because I scream and I jump and jump behind you. But
we don't know what that was. That could have just been it could have been I don't think it was a deer, because that sounded pretty heavy for a deer. But,
it was pretty big. Yeah.
It could have been natural. Who knows? But
that'll be in the video too. You can laugh at me scream and flip out because it sounds like something busting through the brush right there.
Yeah, but as far as a helicopter goes, I can 100% rule that out.
Yeah.
As far as a drone goes, unlikely, but maybe there was some sort of giant experimental drone that was completely quiet. And then I mean, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't make sense either to me. You know what I'm saying? Again, it looked liquid. It looked like a liquid ball of light.
Take Two Wheels says more weird stuff is happening. Maybe your guys' auras are getting stronger, brighter, and attracting more paranormal. We always say that we think the closer you get to these things, the closer they get to you, that you kind of put out a signal or a beacon that you know about them, they start to come to you. And the more you look for it, the more it finds you. So I think that's kind of what we're dealing with, is that we
do you start to think about it and you start to get into that altered mental state like we talked about earlier?
Yeah, maybe.
Do you start to like think about it? Because I mean, look at it. This pretty much consumes our life.
Yeah.
I mean, we work regular jobs in order to have money to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And then our free time is spent researching ways or reading up on ways to research, you know what I'm saying? And then reading like stuff that is involved with this.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So this is a 24-hour pursuit.
Yeah. I mean, I even told her the other day, I was like, man, I've got like 52 tabs open up on my phone right now. And I was going, look at the stuff we get tied into. Stuff on the Collins Elite, Gary Nolan interview, the shadow biosphere that I talked about earlier, stuff on Thelema, stuff on the basal ganglia and its effect with psychotropic drugs, infrasound stuff, Latin pronunciations, because I'm trying to go through and figure out these Latin stuff. Just
a cheese ball recipe. See, that's good.
But that's the thing, is that we spend so much time thinking about this weird stuff. Have we achieved that weird mental state where you start to become open to this stuff? You know what I'm saying? So do you start to become like a beacon and kind of like,
wait till
do we stand out more to this stuff and it comes to us more? So,
I mean, we've been going to the same
or are we just crazy? Are we just like looking at natural stuff and we're just misinterpreting?
Wait till I start doing CE5 stuff. And
see, that's
yeah. Jay Myers says Jesse wants to go toe to toe with the devil, and Joe is like, later.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, she didn't see like I said again with the height difference. I could see. I had a better viewpoint. She could see the light, but I could see what was beneath it more, and that's when I saw those figures. And I was just like, and that's what I was worried about when the light went out. When the thing starts lifting up and going away, I'm like, well, that's leaving, but what about the stuff that's on the ground here now? Because now I can kind of see it with the illumination that was there, what little illumination was coming off of it. But now I don't know where these things are. Did these things leave with it? Are these people like still here? So that's why I wanted to get out of there, because we don't know that area. If we had to run off that road a little bit, we may not, you know how easy it is to get turned around the woods at night.
Yeah.
So
Stephanie Light says, someone mentioned earlier about the Fae doing a ceremony. We've been doing a lot of looking into the Fae lately too. That's what's disturbing.
Actually, hold on. This is a very good one. Chad says Foo Fighter from World War II. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that is probably the closest description that I could come up to with it. Just that ball of light that just kind of moved in a weird way. I don't know. It was just bizarre. It was just so bizarre. And it was like mostly self-contained. It should have lit up. Yeah. It should have lit up everything around.
You could see with the naked eye, you can see the edges of it. That it was a perfectly round.
We're talking bright. I mean, but then the bottom part was a little bit illuminated where you could see those figures at.
Yeah.
But it wasn't lighting up the rest of the woods around it as bright as it was. It should have. So
Matt Keenan says Sasquatch is a gateway into alien demon hunting. I guess
so, man. Heck, that's just
so like I told that guy that he was asking me about just Bigfoot stuff, and I'm like, we're beyond this now. It's like we've ascended to another realm at this point. It's going into some strange avenues.
A lot of people talking about the Fae stuff and everything like that.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned this earlier. Jay, that might have been you that commented on the YouTube channel, because I happened to just glance at the comments. I looked earlier when we published that video, and then I just glanced at them and saw we were getting equal parts. Some people going, wow, this is fascinating. Other people going, this is the worst thing ever, and I'm not going to subscribe to you guys anymore. But I think I saw you mention something about the Christmas tree top at the White House. It's a goat's head on the White House tree.
Also, thank you, Sheila Evelyn. I just got a notification from PayPal. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
You are the best. That is awesome.
Matt Keenan goes, at what point does it become healthy? You need to stop or take a break? That's a real good question. And we're kind of I'm asking myself that, at least right now, that it's, but at the same token, and here's where I'm going back to, that's why that episode we just did is so pivotal and it's so important right now. those guys go, the Collins elite, whatever parts of the government you want to call them, that think that demonic UFO or alien is real. They constantly go, and is what I'm doing the right thing to do, or am I being manipulated into doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep going, maybe we should quit. And then I just go, but it seems like we're activity's getting more, we're learning more. And then I'm like, wait, am I supposed to feel that way?
Are we playing into the hand?
Yeah. So that's
is what we're doing and what we're getting into, is it part of the grand design?
And again, at the same token, I don't have any illusions. We're just a couple of weirdos with whatever equipment we're able to buy and build. And we're pretty educated on the subject, but in the grand scheme of things, we are nothing. Okay. We are not anybody who has these weird delusions of grandeur that are going, oh, it's chosen us to communicate to. I just think we've come across it by happenstance, just by where we're at that point. But it does seem like, I swear that sounds like our names that's in that audio. I don't care what anybody else says otherwise. It's the first thing I heard about it. And the more I listen to it, the more I think about it. And I'm not predisposed to personalize this stuff. You see these people that get really wrapped up in like their own personal strange experiences, and they start to think that they were chosen somehow to do that. I just think we've stumbled into some of this stuff. I don't have any like illusions to anything about us in the slightest, but it does make me think, the more that we get into this, do we become easier for this stuff to notice?
Probably. Yeah, I think so. I think we put up a signal that it can show itself to us in a way,
Yeah, Jones Farm says that you're becoming more familiar to whatever's there, and it's becoming bolder and willing to interact more. Or do we just, I don't know, are we so mentally geared towards this stuff now that it notices us more and shows itself more? Yeah. Or is it just the simple fact that we're the only people in those woods running around at night, especially with the equipment that we have?
Yeah.
Maybe anybody could go there and see this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, is that I don't know what to think anymore at this point.
Mark Plowboy Green says it's getting weirder by the day. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. It's getting weird around here. We're getting, you're probably right about maybe taking a little bit of a break at some point.
We're probably going to have to.
We can't right now, but we might have to take a small break, but not too much of a break.
It hit me earlier today when we were trying to rush and get stuff done to get back up there in order to come back and do this tonight. And you can ask her, I had a moment, I was just going, why are we doing this? It's expensive. It takes up like literally every moment of our time. I'm constantly stressed trying to run from like thing to thing. And then I'm going, God, maybe we need to take a break at some point, man. So Stephanie Light had said, do you think it's an interdimensional spacecraft? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, all I can say is that it was a ball of light that was extremely bright and very large, that did not seem to illuminate the stuff around it the way it should have. And that it seemed like it elongated at one point. And then I could see figures around the bottom of it. And then it just kind of like started going up higher, and then we lost it. So I don't know. It wasn't the moon. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't a comet or like another, like a star or anything like that. Super advanced drone with like some sort of weird light diffuser on it that was extremely big and quiet. I can't rule that out,
Yeah. Wow.
Was it ball lightning? If it's ball lightning, who out there knows how to control ball lightning like these people apparently were doing, That's bizarre.
These are just as unlikely at that point.
So
Vivot says, when you experience a strange sighting, do you ever get a feeling of confusion or disorientation? We had that today.
I'm trying to read off stuff from the RF, like from the spectrum analyzer. And I'm like just stumbling all over my words. And I'm like, I even look at her and I go, I'm having a really hard time expressing myself right now. I'm looking at the numbers, and then I'm trying to say the numbers, and it's just coming out jumbled. My head was hurting. Yeah, we both got that today.
Just completely foggy. And I'm trying to drive. I'm driving us like down the mountain, and I'm like, I feel like I'm having the opposite of deja vu right now. And you described it perfectly, that something that should seem familiar seems completely foreign to me, because I've driven down that mountain hundreds of times at this point, and it just seemed completely foreign to me. I was like, I normally I'll be driving down those roads, and they're like these mountain roads that are gravel, and I know them very, very well. But I'm driving down it, and I was like, this seems completely foreign to me. It's like the opposite of deja vu.
Jamais vu. It's something that is that's something that should be familiar. All of a sudden seems completely alien and strange.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, where are we? And I was like, but it's only the road out on that side.
But in all fairness, this was like a big deal to us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like catching what looks like a Dogman on thermal at the LBL or getting bluff charged like we thought we did that night or any of the other weird stuff that's happened. This was like much more impactful to me. This
Yeah.
is something that I've never thought I'd see, and it was just weird. So
This
maybe
is something
it was
you
just
never.
maybe it just overwhelmed us, and that's why we were getting confused. There might have been
Yeah.
a natural cause for that.
Maybe, I mean, maybe you can't anticipate this because it's like, what is it? You know, like
Yeah.
what was it? What is
Yeah.
it?
Kaiju Ninja asked, do you find evidence during the winter? Is winter a tough time to investigate? Would you wait until spring? We don't really do much in the middle of the summer because it's so hot here.
And humid.
It's so hot and humid. When we go out, we carry a lot of stuff with us, and we tried to go out somewhere in like August to look into something, and we called a lid on it. We're not going to do
We
this.
can't carry enough water.
We carry water filters, and we're having to constantly stop.
Yeah,
and
because we can't carry enough water because we're carrying so much gear and we're hiking and
it's
we're going
so
deep
hot.
in.
The thermal imagers are useless because the temperature of like the environment is almost basically at body temperature. The cameras are fogging up. It's too hard. So yeah, the fall and the winter is like, as long as we can navigate those roads, we will run through it all through fall, winter, and spring. So
Go ahead.
Sorry. There are no fields around there. This is an area that is in a cluster of national forests there. So it's all forested areas, all
And it's
through
pretty
there.
rugged. It's very
Yeah.
mountainous and rugged, and the only
Yeah.
access you have are dirt and gravel roads that are very, very difficult to get in and out of, that are not maintained whatsoever.
The only clear area up there is an old cemetery that is still maintained by, I guess, people whose family members are up there.
Yeah.
We've never seen anybody up there, but it's obvious that somebody is still maintaining it.
But that's only a couple miles up the mountain. We go past that miles and miles.
But the rest of it, it's all forest. It's all heavy forest.
Yeah.
So.
Red Wolf says, when people are mad at the direction you're going and saying they'll unsubscribe to you, you're probably on the right track.
It's the track we're taking, man. I mean, we're
just following the phenomenon where it leads us. We're just following this weird trail, and we get the evidence, we find the information. There's synchronicities that go on in our lives, and we seem to follow them because it seems like it's leading us somewhere. We don't know where. We don't know if this is good or bad. But we've been having some synchronicities go on with us working on that Dark Dive episode.
Yeah.
And we're kind of leaning into them in a way because it seems like it's leading us somewhere. I don't know where. And then we have this event last night. So I don't know. We need to do well to protect ourselves spiritually, mentally, physically, but it's definitely leading us in an interesting direction. But again, this seems like dangerous work. It is.
It's frustrating work.
It's frustrating work.
If we were just doing like traditional Bigfoot hunting right now, it'd be so much easier, man. You go stay in like a KOA campground, you walk around, you howl a few times, you bang on a tree with a bat, and then
where do we sign up?
Yeah, I mean, that's just so much, it's like we talk about ghost hunting, man. Ghost hunting, you're inside, like you drove there and you just got out of your car and you walked in.
There's a roof and an AC.
And if it gets too bad, you just walk out and you're done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
but Joe and I have very strong personalities, and I think that's gotten us to where we are in life, and it's also probably going to take us down in life. But we have very strong personalities, and we're just pretty hard-headed, and we're going to just take the most difficult route sometimes.
Rob asked, you do become more receptive to it. You've seen UFOs, Bigfoot up close, shot at what I'm sure was a Dogman, pushed by a ghost, seen 2 Thunderbirds. I believe it at this point. But again, when we started doing this, I was open to the idea of there being a Sasquatch. It was going to be first it was an ape, and then I'm like, nah, it's not an ape. It's a relic hominid of some sort. But I was familiar with a lot of this stuff just from like my educational background, and then just being interested in just weird stuff in general. But it was just an interest. I didn't think any of this was possible. And then you start going, like I said, I mean, because trust me, I mean, if somebody came up to me and went, hey, I just saw this this super bright ball of liquid light, I would say the exact same thing. Well, is it, what was the moon phase like that night, or did you maybe see a lantern or anything like that? You try to kind of eliminate the obvious possibilities. And it's even then, I'm not going, oh my Lord, that's a UFO, but I'm going, what is that? Is that like a fire? It's not a fire. It's not a lantern. What is, you start to try to eliminate, but when you're there and you're looking at it and you've eliminated the mundane stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
it goes into some wild directions.
Yeah, exactly.
Take Two Wills says, when I heard your names growled, maybe you guys are getting accepted into their world
I don't want to
slowly.
be. So I don't want to be.
Yeah. Where is it a one-way ticket to the Goblin universe?
Yeah. So actually, hold on. Tracker, hello. Glad you're home safe. Did you have any missing time? It sounds like you witnessed a landing. When we were driving out, I literally went, what time is it? And then she went, oh, it's like, and I went, all right, hold on. And then I went, all right, cool. We're right on track. Because that just came to my mind all of a sudden as we're driving out of there. Because it's a long drive. It takes 2 hours to get out of there.
Just to get to a paved road for us to drive more time to get out of there.
To the highways. But it's 2 hours on like a winding, like dirt gravel road getting out of there. And that's when I was just like, what time is it? Do we have any missing time? And no, we didn't. Nope. So
thank goodness. Sam Burton says, could it have been an open portal? That's what I think it was. That's what I'm kind of leaning towards. That's my theory right now, that it was a portal situation.
Here's where my possible theories that I'm entertaining right now is that it was someone opening up a portal of some sort. How that explains it moving up and moving away, I don't know. Or somebody summoning, and it sounds so crazy to say, it's crazy talk, but summoning something. Or it was, I don't know. I don't know. To me, I don't know if it was you saw a portal possibly, or that's what when you interpreted that as a portal. I didn't really get a portal. To me, it's almost like they called this here. They called it here, and now it's leaving. But what's weird is that again,
so it's not a door, it's an entity in itself.
Or something, an energy to itself, an energy. That's why when somebody said ball lightning, that's when I was just like, you know what? I mean, it didn't behave like ball lightning, but did somebody up there have the ability to conjure something similar? Conjure. Listen, I'm talking now. It's like crazy talk, but it didn't seem like a portal to me because it moved and it moved up and went away. But it seemed like maybe somebody drew something.
You don't know the portal laws. You don't know how portals behave. So. We're going through the chat here. Make sure you guys, let me take a moment here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. That always helps us out. Just take a moment, hit that like button. We appreciate you guys joining us here on this weird live stream that we've decided to do tonight. We appreciate you guys watching and joining us on this. And make sure you check out that dark dive we released today. But make sure you hit that like button for us. So you can go ahead now, sir.
Oh, I forgot Matt Keenan said, blessed salt and holy water prevented you from experiencing high strangeness. What about those blessed? Martin Groves gave us blessed bullets. And
10 millimeter bullets.
We don't carry those out. Those are kind of at the house in the break in case of emergency type thing. Jesse blessed some of our knives that we have, but we don't carry those knives all the time with us.
No, I need to probably bless the ones that we carry
but
every day that we're out there.
But like I said, I've been carrying like a little thing of like blessed black salt and a little thing of like holy water with me, and then I left it in the car, and that might have just been complete coincidence. But that was one of the first things that I went, just like, oh my Lord, when I left my backpack here, I didn't have that with me.
Yeah.
And something happened, and nothing has happened. But the activity also goes quiet sometimes for some reason, and sometimes it never starts back up in certain areas. So maybe that was just odd timing. I don't know, but that is very strange to me, and I think that we're gonna have to almost sometimes take it out, see if anything happens, and then not
just
take
experiment
it out.
with it. So you're going to take the Jack Parsons scientific method approach.
Exactly right. So yeah,
interesting.
Stuff is already moving around my house on its own.
We talked about this in a live stream a couple weeks ago, that we had his phone lifted off the couch.
We were stacking equipment up. There's an equipment rack in the same room that we do the show from, and we've got everything stored in like hard case, like Apache cases from like Harbor Freight, and then a mixture of like Pelican cases and stuff like that. But Jesse was handing me stuff, and I was putting it on these shelves, and we had 2 boxes there, and one box just flew off the other one. And you had asked, "Oh, did you leave something on?" And I'm like, "What would I leave on that would cause a box?"
I thought you had something with like a magnet in it or
Yeah,
something.
no. And I'm going, "What would cause that to do it?" So we put it back up there, and then it did it again in a few minutes.
Yes.
We had a plastic bottle slide across the table and fly off the other day. So nothing major, but stuff's moving around the house. There's no way to dress it up. We've seen it happen 4 times with our own eyes now. So Doug Greninger, yeah, pictures of orbs and they have faces inside them. The Bledsoes, the people that are tied in with was it the Pascagoula UFO incident?
They were the Bledsoes are North Carolina.
Yeah, they I can't remember the name of the UFO incident they were involved with, but they're the ones who have been contacted by that entity they call the Lady. They take pictures of orbs, and there's like more than one face. There'll be like 4 faces inside of an orb and all that. So,
yeah, we don't take a dog out. You guys are talking about taking a dog out. We wouldn't take a dog out just because that's a whole other factor.
Yeah.
And it also, I think that we probably wouldn't get the activity we get if we had a dog with us. What?
Yeah.
Put that up there if you want to talk about it.
Got a Yeti just had a thing behind catching up. You said the radio. Yeah, it's a spectrum analyzer. So I'm picking up RF signal on it. And I've got one that's just a little standard one, and then one that has a higher range. And the higher range on the one that I have, it was, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but it was going to like 1.58 gigahertz up to like low one, like 1.71, I think. And that's on the max end of what this thing can read. We had that for a bit, and then it just dropped off. And then I was only getting around like 754 megahertz, I think is what it was, 750 megahertz. And even that's high through there because, again, there's no cell towers. There's no real cell reception. You could probably pick up some AM frequencies through there, but there's nothing else up through there. There's no real radio towers. You could probably pick up a real strong transponder up there, but we've taken radios up there before, like little Baofeng handhelds to see what we can pick up, and we can't pick anything up through there. We can pick up the National Weather Service broadcast up there.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing it'll get.
Yeah, but those are lower frequencies though. Nothing high like this. I don't know what it was, and I only caught it for like a bit, and then we were catching a lot of stuff on. We were catching a lot of stuff all across the spectrum of frequencies there for a bit too. You looked at it and you was like, "Oh, it's going crazy," but I don't know. He says that the weird signal happens whenever high strangeness occurs at Skinwalker Ranch is 1.6 gigahertz. Okay. Weird. All right. Somebody has mentioned something about Skinwalker Ranch, but they've got a wired in, like a real, not a portable spectrum analyzer. They've got like a big boy. So,
well, that'll happen when you have government funding. Yeah. Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, "Would you try to signal that ball of light with one of your lights?" We
shined a flashlight at it.
We did.
You'll see us do it because I was trying to see if it was people over there. Because my first thought is that we've ran across. There's people up there camping, which is odd because there's no vehicles there for miles, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. And then I'm like, realize it's not a campfire, and then it's not a lantern, not like a Coleman lantern or anything like that. And then I see the figures, but yeah, you'll see my flashlight beam. I'm flashlighting it. So, again, if those figures, they had to know we were there.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to know we were there.
We weren't exactly subtle, Yeah. Especially when we're standing over there filming it and going, "Oh my God."
The only French I really know is "Je ne parle pas français." I do not know how to speak French. And that is what I carried away from a semester of French. So, yeah, this is Vivoit says, "I experienced a kind of sensory overload when I saw a group of Sasquatch behind a barn we were working at years ago. And I could have sworn they were just people going hunting." Yeah, I mean, we're not predisposed to this stuff. We're out specifically looking for this. But tonight, last night, what we saw was just so outside of the realm of like what we were expecting. We've seen real weird light anomalies from a distance that were really bright. And then we've seen the little smaller ones, but we've never seen anything up close like that though.
No.
This is the closest we've ever seen been to something like that.
And that weird, it was just so weird. And it was like it wasn't floating through the air
Yeah.
at first. It was on the ground. Like it was.
And you'll hear the footage. You'll hear me go, I think there's people there because I'm seeing these figures. And that's what I'm going, we're not expecting to see like figures around like a ball of light like that. I mean, if it was a bonfire, it would have behaved. It doesn't look like anything that you could really put into like shoebox into like a definition.
No.
So yeah, we did the exact same thing. We both are just kind of, there's a lot of us just standing there going, what is that? What is,
Yeah.
You would think that we'd be adept at this now at this point. It's a ball of light in the woods, but no,
it threw us a curveball.
We're trying to run through like logical possibilities.
That was our flaming curveball last night, James Barker says, fire a flare into the old open
what's
portal.
worse can happen? So,
yeah.
Teresa Wilkins, you were watching the new deep dive. Thank you so much. So,
dark dive.
I don't know what Douglas. I don't know what that means. Do you guys descent before you go into
descent? Like get the scent off of ourselves?
Oh,
perhaps?
descent. We have sometimes. Sometimes we don't fool with it. We will sometimes like descent our clothes. I even got like the weird little gum you choose. It's supposed to take off. Sometimes we do it, but then we came to the thing of just like these things know we're there.
Yeah.
People will sometimes just go, hey, you're making too much noise walking through the woods. And I'm going, we're walking through the woods in fall and winter. I mean, we're going to make noise. And then I'm always just like I don't think we're sneaking up on any of these things.
No, because you're in its environment. You're in its arena.
Yeah.
You are the one that's the outsider. You're going to stick out like a sore thumb no matter what you do. Jonestead Farm said that Narkside and I investigated the old cemetery by her house last weekend. Lots of orbs, a face, and a creepy pointing finger stain on the bell tower. Very cool. Hope you guys got lots of pictures and video.
Deadhead Yardhunt, a video air freshener sliding on a sink in a customer's bathroom. Put it on my YouTube channel. Feel free to put that link to that video in the chat. Deadhead Yardhunt, because that's what we saw. The boxes just, when I'm saying slid, they like with like force, not like they slowly just kind of slid off. I mean, they shot off, and then my phone shot off the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it shot off the couch. Yeah, I don't know. Weird, man. Definitely weird. So
you can go ahead.
Okay. So but yes, like I said, we'll have that video out and people can look at it, and it's, again, once we were able to go out and we were able to do some like control experiments to show you what other lights look like at that distance. I've got like a really bright streamlight lantern that's like, I don't even know what the lumens is on it, but I've got a feeling that on high at that same distance, you're not going to probably be able to see it at all, just because it's the sensor in that little action cam's not, it's meant for up close stuff.
Yeah.
It's not meant for like real distance type stuff. So.
Take Two Wheels says, Jesse, any idea what those beams of light were in my trail cam photos? Nobody can give me an answer or explanation.
No clue.
What I was pulling that up is.
I've seen.
Yeah.
It's because look at this. You see it on the.
Look at the intensity over here.
Well, look at this. It seems like it's puddling up on the ground.
Yeah.
That's not a light artifact. Honestly, Take Two, it looks like there is a giant beam of light coming from the upper left portion of the frame shooting onto the ground.
Yeah.
And it's very intense too, you can tell. Because I mean, look at that. You can see it's dark there. It's lit up over there.
And it's hard lines on either side too. And
it's wide too. It's not a flashlight. I mean, I'm a flashlight nut, man. I probably have 50 flashlights of varying intensities and sizes and all that. That's not a handheld searchlight. That looks like,
and it's coming from up top.
So. And it's coming from up top.
Yeah.
It's not unless you had a helicopter hovering 50 feet off the ground and shooting the searchlight from it. But why is nothing blowing and why aren't those deer spooked? I have no clue, man. No clue at all. No clue.
So why we got a little dead air here.
We were looking at the photo. So.
We're looking at photos. Make sure you guys hit the like button, and it's been a day. It's been a couple of days here because we've just been traveling back and forth between our research site and here, and basically sleeping, packing back up, and going back out there. So
Stephanie Light had a thing. I wonder if winter would be a good time considering not many people would be out. So I think that activity might heighten. We have better luck in the fall, winter, and early spring with anything. And it might be because of that, because I've often wondered that before, because when you talk to, like, if you look at like the BFRO and like their paid tours that people take, they do those in the summertime when it's like warm. And I'm always just like, we seem to, when we do go out there in the summertime, we don't really ever have any luck with anything, like anything at all. And then what you do here, there's more people in the woods then.
Yeah, so I think if there's activity, if there's something out there, maybe it gets kind of pushed back deeper into the woods during the summer because there are so many people that go into the woods during the summer. I mean, the area we go into, we never see anybody up there, even in the summer.
Well, we've seen a couple of people and they've seemed exceptionally shady every time we've dealt with them. So, and then anything you hear, you can't tell if that's like human noise pollution. Is that like other people? One of the areas that we were going to, like when COVID first kicked off and everything was closed down, people were going into the woods a lot more just because they couldn't go anywhere else. And there was like an old campground that had been abandoned for like decades, a few miles from one of the areas that we were researching in, and people started going there again because it's closed down. There's no oversight or anything like that. They're letting off fireworks, shooting guns and everything like that. So we had to, like, even though they were miles away from us, the noise they were making was carrying over, and we were going, anything we hear and we catch on the recorders, we can't definitively say it wasn't something they did. So there's no point in even being here at that point. So what you got?
I'm going to run to the restroom real quick.
All right, go ahead.
We oiled the door, so it should squeak.
Yeah, we oiled the door after somebody's suggestion last week. So, and Take Two Wheels had said something about you guys are a beacon to the unexplained. I don't know if that's it, because I'm still thinking that it's just because we're in an area where nobody else is, and we're running around at night on foot. We're carrying like equipment to try to document stuff like this. So I don't know. I just think that I think that it seems to be increasing the more we do it. That's what's making me maybe think that maybe it's either the mental state we're putting ourselves into, or sometimes it does seem to be kind of interactive almost. So I don't know. If you look at different folklore and everything like that, the European folklore, some European folklore would tell you not to pay attention to the fae that you would run into, or like the creatures in the woods and all that. And that the more attention you paid them, the stronger they would get. And then they would basically latch onto you and it would cause you nothing but problems. So that's in the back of my mind sometimes as well. So, all right, see what else we got here. Well, Jesse's out of the... Rob S., thank you for that. $10. We'll put that towards psychiatric care for us there. Cryptid sponsors a 12,000 lumen lighted Academy for around 140. Yeah, a lot of those like store-bought lights like that, the lumen claims are not as high as what they usually are.
They're lumen lies.
Lumen lies.
These are lumen lies.
Lumen lies.
Do not be fooled by their flashlight.
Now, some of those handheld spotlights are pretty powerful. The one I had last night was, I'd have to look it up. I don't know what it is intensity wise, because my other one was not piercing the fog because the fog was so thick.
That fog was like the worst fog I've ever seen in my life.
So we carry a little flashlight that has like a very intense beam on it, just in our equipment box, just in case we need it. And it's got a really focused beam. And I was going, all right, this might pierce the fog a little bit better than the flashlight that I normally carry. I'm going to go into my Amazon orders and do a search for flashlight. And then I'm going to be sickened when I see how many flashlights I've bought over the years from Amazon.
Oh my God, don't do it. I don't know if you got to this. Mark Plowboy Green says, have y'all noticed anything goes missing after an outing? Keys, knife, etc. I don't think so.
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I'm like ultra anal about the equipment.
If anything is missing, he knows it's missing and he will flip out until he finds it. Like it is, he will not sleep. He will just run around the house repeating, well, where is this? So if something's missing, he'll know it's missing immediately.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I can't think of anything.
Yeah,
that,
I don't think so. We did lose a red flashlight during an investigation. We went back and I found it. So
Yeah.
But we just dropped that. That was just us dropping it because we were kind of juggle everything. And Joe had a flashlight in his pocket and it fell out.
So that flashlight that I had last night that I shined at this beam is 8,000 lumens. And it's a really focused beam. There's a lot of candela to it. It's so when you can see it on the video, you'll see just this laser beam shooting through the fog. Sometimes that's what I hit that with. So if those were people there, there's no way they didn't know we were there.
Yeah.
There's no way at all they didn't know we were there. And if those figures weren't people, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know. We're still unpacking a lot of this stuff.
When he said that there were figures around it, like my first thought was, we make a phantasm reference every episode, I think. But my first thought was those little things in Phantasm when you're like, "There's figures going around it." I was like, "Oh my god, it's like
that's what it was." And I mean,
it's like the things in Phantasm.
So let's unpack this, and because we even haven't talked about this, is that I saw like the little figures. So there's the sphere, all right. And there's the figure going what looks like that. They're going counterclockwise. That's a big deal with a lot of stuff. Witchcraft, fae, lore. You go Widdershins is what it's called. You're going counterclockwise. It's against nature. It's supposed to be a bad thing. And they were going counterclockwise. They were going from there to there. And I'm assuming they were walking around behind it at that point. I mean, I saw two figures at a time. It might have been the same two. It might have been I was only seeing two at a time. I don't know.
Jeez.
So,
Rob S., thanks for that $10, bro. I don't know if you said.
Told him we're going to spend it on psychiatric counseling if this keeps going.
Oh God, yeah, no, maybe.
Everybody's talking about this like news report on Fox and a pic of the tree with a goat head. You handle the chat for a second because I want to see.
Hello, chat. How are we?
Sean Blevins is in there. So, hello, Sean.
Hello, Sean Blevins. Nice to see you, friend. James Barker says they get pissed if any knives went missing. Yes, we'd get very pissed. We'd get very angry.
Anytime you pull up something and the first several responses are just them debunking it or trying to debunk it.
How dare you? I want to see this goat head is what I want to see.
That's what I want to see too.
Kiss the goat.
Wow. All I'm pulling up is false rumors of the satanic. White House has Baphomet head for Christmas decoration.
Maybe back when he was a goat farmer, it just reminds
It's
him.
all been like scrubbed at this point. The only thing I can find is a Yahoo report saying that is a false rumor, but then they don't even have a picture of what they're claiming is false.
Well, that's what they want you to think.
Yeah, so it's
You like my Alex Jones impression.
very good. But yeah, there's nothing on here, man. There's nothing
Yeah. Cryptid response says, "I need a blessed spear." Oh gosh, yeah. I know Barton carries a spear. He has like 2 spears. I think Barton has like 2 spears. He's got a lot of hand-to-hand combat weapons that he takes with him into the LBL because you're not supposed to have firearms there. But yeah, he takes a lot of hand-to-hand combat weapons into the LBL with him. And I think his brother carves the staffs on them. So
that's totally a goat head. That's insane. Look at the curled horns on that. That is totally like a Baphomet head on the Christmas tree. That's a Baphomet head. So that's been scrubbed from the net now, guys. That is.
James Barker says, "Oh, Jesse, busting out the ghost cover there." Oh yeah, we're on a ghost kick right now. We've been listening to some ghost.
Martin says, and it has all of his weapons blessed. Yeah, Jesse did stuff on like some of our main knives that we carry, but
and our tomahawks.
And then our pistols, whether that'll work or not. And then Martin gave us that ammunition, but I have that ammunition say back at the house, just to have like in case of trouble there at that point. Dead End Yardhan said was it supposed to be a Krampus on the tree? Is that what it is? Because it looks like a goat. It looks like a demonic goat head, but Krampus looks demonic, like a demonic goat thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it.
Rob S.
Martin Groves, hello, buddy. How are you? Drop by the local Catholic
Hello.
press priest, and then we'll be happy to bless your spear. So
Rob S. sent us another $10. He said that's battery fund for Joe.
oh, yeah, it's
Don't even ask about batteries in this house.
it's a constant fight, man. I mean, for every like hour we're out in the woods, there's like an hour of me at home cleaning stuff, recharging stuff, repacking stuff. Jesse handles all of the video, most of the video review. I handle audio review. Usually we have more video review. So she handles video review, and then she does the YouTube channel.
I do all the editing.
And then I handle like just the equipment upkeep and everything like that.
Yeah.
So all right, Matt Keenan goes, maybe those lights are summonings. If you notice my language that I just used when I was talking about it, and I seemed a little baffled by myself, I even went something that was like summoned. That sounds crazy, but I'm watching like figures circle around a weird ball of light in the woods. I mean, your mind has to go there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it appears to be some sort of summoning, right?
I mean, if there were people up there and they had a weird drone and they're up in the middle of nowhere, they didn't even drive up there. Somebody dropped them off because there's no other vehicles up there. And we're talking so far from the road. Like we said, it takes us hours to get out of there. But say somebody dropped them off in the woods and then just left them. So they're up there and they've got this weird experimental drone that they're going to fly, and they're in pitch black. Okay. And then all of a sudden they see two people with like flashlights and like camera equipment.
And they fire it up.
And then what do? Do you just go, just fire it up anyway? Let's mess with these folks. You know what I'm saying? And then we're hitting them with like a high beam flashlight, and you're just going to ignore that in the middle of the woods at night? I mean, wouldn't you be weird going, who are these weirdos that are out in the woods? Like, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, I think that, I don't know. I can't explain why we didn't get any sort of reaction from them. Unless maybe we were, I don't know. I got to unpack it a lot more. So.
James Barger says we need silver infused kukris. I have a knife that my friend Lenny made for me that has a stag handle, and he wrapped the handle with silver wire. And he did a ritual with it and everything, like a protection ritual on it. It's very cool, but it's got like a silver wire wrapping around the stag handle. Paranormal Oz, yes, the Diabolical Dark Dive has dropped. Yes, it dropped today. Make sure you check that out. If you guys have not listened to that, it's the latest Dark Dive episode. It's number 7. We've took a bit of a hiatus from Dark Dive because we started going back out in the field a lot more. So, but we did a lot of research for this one, and it's the first in a series. We're going to be doing a lot of diabolical hypothesis stuff because it goes in a lot of different directions. It branches out. And I think we mentioned it's sort of like a spider web, that it goes in all kinds of different directions. And we focused mainly on some background information for this. And this is probably our longest dark dive we've put out. It's like an hour and a half long, but it's a lot of really, really good information. Joe delivers a lot of great information in a very concise way. And we had a great time doing it. And we are the past month and a half, we've just been knee deep in just the strangest research. We have been just like researching Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, UAP encounters, the Fae, just all of this stuff, demonic encounters. We've been reading just articles and articles and books and books and books about all this stuff. I've been reading about the ritual of the Babylon ritual that Jack Parsons did, the Babylon working, and looking at some pretty obscure books about that. So it's been a very interesting process going into researching that episode. So go and check that out and let us know what you think about it. While you're here, make sure you hit the like button on this stream. Sean Blevins, yes, y'all found the goat. Sending you information. Okay, yeah, we saw the goat head thing. Yep. Paranormal Oz says that's actually the direction I'm going in after 15 years of research. Yeah, I if you continue to be honest with yourself and continue to do the research and you go as deep into it as we have, and I'm sure you have, you almost have to end up going in that direction with it. Teresa Wilkins says the new Dark Dive was really interesting. Thank you very much, Teresa.
Yeah, we appreciate those of you who enjoyed it. And it seemed like a lot of people just got into it and got instantly offended And anytime we put out a podcast or something like that, and I see an instant drop in like subscribers,
Yeah.
like an instant drop, and like and then people just messaging me to tell us how we're wrong, and it's
But
like offended that we're even kind of broaching the subjects, and we're not saying that any of this is right. We're just exploring another possibility for it.
Also, we don't do this to have 1 million views and 1 million subscribers. That's not why we do this. If we wanted to do that, we would, tell fake stories and make clickbait titles and clickbait thumbnails and stuff like that. That gets a lot of views. That gets a lot of interest. We are doing what we like to do, what we like to look into, what we're interested in, what we're drawn to. And it turns out that a lot of you are drawn to it as well. And a lot of you find it interesting as well. So we really appreciate that.
And if we posit something, we go, hey, this might be a possibility. We're at no point are we ever going to go, hey guys, this is what's going on definitively. Because we don't know. I mean, it's weird because we run across people all the time that seem like they have it all figured out, and they know exactly what all this stuff is, and they can just explain it to you and just give you all these like rationales. And I'm just going, how do you know this? I mean, how do you? Well, I mean, I had one guy tell me that he was, and this is probably the best answer I've gotten. He goes, I was like actually out hunting. I was in my tree stand one day, and then I started hearing things in my head, and this is what it told me. And I went, that's very possible.
That is
very
possible.
You are giving me that might be a possibility. I believe that something happened to you there. But a lot of these people will just be, and we don't do that. So, I mean, if we talk to you about like the diabolical hypothesis and like the government, two sides of the government, one trying to bring demonic entities over and the other trying to like stop it, that's just a possibility. We're not sitting here telling you that's our theory or that's where we're, hanging our hat on, so. But like I said, it seems like a lot of people that once you get outside of that, just regular, stereotypical way of thinking, they can really get offended at it. So I appreciate those of you who enjoyed doing that.
A little sidestep here. Bryce Edwards says, Jesse, what is your favorite ghost song? Mine is Ritual. Probably Cerise is my favorite. So.
All right, and that's another weird little synchronicity because neither one of us have ever really listened to Ghost before.
Not that much. No.
I'm not a music person. I don't listen to a lot of music. And we start doing this stuff with like looking into the Jack Parsons thing, and then if you look into Jack Parsons, you've got to look into Aleister Crowley and Thelema, and then if you look at that, you've got to look in Blavatsky and Theosophy, and then you've got to look into H.P. Lovecraft and how he was associated by them, and then you have to start looking at all these these related things. So we're just doing this deep, dark dive down that. And I'm reading all this stuff on like Aleister Crowley. And I didn't know a lot of stuff about Aleister Crowley. And then we start hearing like ghost everywhere, like literally everywhere.
And it's like a lot of the songs, especially like the latest album that he put out there's just a lot of the songs are earworms and we cannot get them out of our brains.
Yeah. And I'm going, I don't want these like lyrics stuck in my head here, man, going out doing what I'm doing. I don't want these lyrics. And I'm looking at that going, wow, man, that guy, he does these things that it gets stuck in your head, and that's got to be a form of ritual. It's being repeated and everything like that. And then to find out that so much of this album's like influenced by Aleister Crowley, and I'm going, so he's writing these things that whether you like it or not, the melodies get stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but it's weird how that just popped up at the same time. And then I went, Jesse, did you know all this is about Aleister Crowley? It's just very bizarre, man. It's very, very, very bizarre. So the synchronicities that come up doing this sort of stuff. So
Rob S says, need a tomahawk though. What do you recommend? So we both have Macoun tomahawks. Macoun, it's two brothers, and then their father makes tomahawks as well. We bought them from them directly at Blade Show a couple years ago, but their website is macountomahawks.com. Joe is adding it into the chat, but they have handmade tomahawks that are insanely amazing.
If you can swing the coin, Winklers like tomahawks are like amazing.
Winklers are great.
I just can't spend that much with all the equipment we have to buy. I can't justify spending that much on a tomahawk. So.
I personally like the Macoun tomahawks better because they are more rugged. They look, I mean, they're handmade. They're gorgeous. What was that Netflix series where Aquaman was a fur trader?
Aquaman was a fur trader. Frontier.
Yes. Yeah. Where, what is his name?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Yes, he was like one of the producers on that. But they have Macoun tomahawks in Frontier. So yeah, they're very, very cool.
Benny Long, when you go far enough down the rabbit hole, you find that everything is connected. Yeah, it is. It's to such a weird degree that it's almost like people that are just very like singularly focused on one particular phenomenon. The Bigfoot people think that all of this other stuff is just ridiculous. And then the people that are into UFOs, all this, everything else is ridiculous. The ghost people think that everything else is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at it. And like I said, especially with this last thing with Jack Parsons, I'm just constantly going, all of this stuff, there's so much interconnectivity to all of this. It's mind boggling. It gets overwhelming sometimes, man. I mean, you're going, I just wanted to learn about this one particular thing. I don't want to just, stay up all night now following this rabbit warren of like information, but you kind of have to do that in order to have a good understanding of some of this stuff. So
yeah. Paranormal Oz, what songs or artists? Sorry, we're talking about the band Ghost.
It's demonic when you get down to it. It's demonic. I mean, it's demonic. And there's a story, like a song that I heard and I realized what H.P. Lovecraft. So I'm going, let me listen to this. And then it gets stuck in your head. And then I'm going, I don't want this stuck in my head going into the woods doing what we do.
Yeah.
Because and then I'm going, it's catchy on purpose to try to almost get like converts to it, man. I know I sound like Tipper Gore back in the 80s.
You do sound like
I know I sound like Tipper Gore back in the 80s.
This rock and roll is the devil.
But it is, man. I'm telling you. So it's
Otherworld Strange Stories. Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
$5. Have you ever tried to use scented lotion or perfume to get a possible response on yourself? Not fake pheromone. Any activity if you did use it?
But our friend Tracker, who was on here earlier, sent me. We were talking about pheromones via email, and he sent me.
Take Two Wheels.
No. Tracker's because he sent me Tracker. Take Two Wheels sent us cat bait. Which is, by the way, that's so repugnantly smelly. It's in 3 freezer bags. And it's in our shed now because
It's
even with
so
it's
bad.
so bad, so we can't wait to try it out in the woods when the rain stops.
Yeah, so it went to my PO box that Bobcat sent.
Yeah,
it went to my PO box, and the people at the people at the post office were like, something is in your box, and something's in your PO box, and it smells awful. We don't know what it is. Could you ask people not to send you stuff that smells that bad? The whole place smells like it. So we had to triple bag it.
And we had it in the house. And then even then I was just like, we're going to put this in the shed.
Yeah. So we put it in this shed.
I can't wait to use it in the woods because it's going to be. But anyway, no, Tracker had sent me a thing for pheromone-based colognes and perfumes.
Oh, okay.
But it's so insanely expensive. I'm just going, maybe one day. But now we haven't tried anything like that on ourselves. Like as far as, I'd be a little hesitant to put scent on us, so in case we needed to get out quick. I mean, it can already smell us, but we have not done that as of yet. So all right, so let's see here. That's the fisherman who saw the Dogman mauling of the campers in the LBL. He saw it approach the tent on all fours and stand. Yeah, that's actually one of the cornerstone like LBL stories where he saw the Dogman come up there and he killed the couple. I think it was like a younger couple that he like killed. And then supposedly that part of the LBL was blocked off and they kind of wrecked it, It's
very similar to the supposed follow-up of the 1982 massacre.
So
yeah.
What we got here? Well, Parsons performed his rituals in Area 51 in Groom Lake. Yeah, and the thing that I thought was odd is he's trying to do that invocation of Pan before each of the rocket launches. And Pan's a pretty direct parallel with the European version of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Goat legs, goat horns, that kind of Saturnine kind of face and everything like that. So
Eopan.
Yeah, so the whole thing is just weird. And it would be just an interesting side story, but the fact that he was able to get such weird results, and the fact that somebody so intelligent was going, this is where I'm getting it from. And you're going, this person's, he's standing there flat out telling you that he's getting this information from elsewhere and that he thinks that he opened something up.
Yeah, he told like government investigators that he's concerned that he opened up a portal.
Yeah, like just the elemental, with the elemental working, they Crowley is going that I've made contact with Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack Parsons, you know, just tries to do the Babylon working, and then he just refines it. He takes that same scientific method that he's using on rocket fuel and applies it to like esoteric, like rituals, and keeps refining it and changing it until finally he's successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that's what I think. I think that he was successful, but I think he opened up a portal. And one of the things we talk about is that according to that thelemic belief, you know, this religion these guys practice, that the person who opened the portal has to be the one that closed it. And then Jack Parsons dies in that lab experiment, you know, in his home laboratory. And one of the things I immediately thought of was, did somebody have him killed? Did somebody in the government have him killed because they didn't want the portal closed? Were members of the government already being influenced by these things coming through?
Yeah.
And were influenced into having him killed so that the portal would have to stay open. So
Take Two Wheels says that's the stuff that brought in that big cat. He sent me a picture of a big cat that came in. That is some awful stuff, man. I would not doubt it.
Yeah, we have gotten a very big familiarity on wolf lore, cat lore now, thanks to Take Two Wheels, Sasquatch pheromone chips, which are human and ape scents mixed together. So yeah, we've unfortunately gotten a bad crash course in how to handle lures like that.
Parfumier.
So yeah.
Yes.
The cat stuff, I don't know how we're going to be able to use though, because at least the wolf lore and the Sasquatch pheromone chips, you can have them sealed in freezer bags.
Yeah.
And then once you're done, peel your gloves off and seal your gloves in there as well. And you don't really carry a lot of scent on you. That cat scent is so...
It smells...
Yeah.
It smells very woody and very... It's so disgusting.
I have no clue.
Oh God, I can just smell it in my brain now. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I did. Paranormal Laws. Don't you think that lamb looks like a gray? It looks exactly like a gray. And then I'll have to refer to our notes here. The fact that he looks exactly like an alien gray. Where are we at here? Analytical hypothesis. Looks exactly like one. And then when Jack Parsons does another thelemic ritual, but apparently does it better, you start having UFOs coming through.
Yeah.
And so much so that Kenneth Grant, who was a guy that was big in like the OTO, like the group that Crowley founded, he flat out says a gateway for the great old ones has already been established and opened by members of the OTO who are in rapport with this entity Lamb. And then he later on says that the Babylon working opened up a door and something flew in. And then he starts talking about the great flying saucer flap of like the 40s. And so, yeah, I mean, you're not the only one who thinks it looks like that. The people involved with it were saying that that basically these were the equivalent of alien grays. Jack Parsons thought that UFOs were going to help usher in the age of Crowleyism. And they would talk about what we call UFOs today. We'll call them something else later. And giving like, you know, a real insinuation that they were basically the equivalent of like angels and demons and all that. So
when they sought to bring on the Age of Horus or the New Age.
Yeah.
That was...
But what's weird is you think it sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo until you look at the timing. You can't deny that he did this working and then all of this other stuff happened. You can't deny that this guy with no real education in it, other than like a background as a chemist to a certain extent, was doing things that the rest of the academia considered impossible. And he was doing it and basically saying, oh yeah, it's tied in with this weird religion that I'm practicing and that I'm trying to summon the great old ones. Like, what's up with that, man? You know? Although what's funny is that I briefly saw this comment and I can't remember who made it on the YouTube channel, but somebody went that basically you have all of this movement on the rocketry by the Nazis who were part of the Vril and the Thule Society, doing their weird stuff. And then Jack Parsons maxed up with the OTO doing these weird invocations as he's doing rocket technology. And then we've had some refinement, but basically it's been the same thing for decades. Until now, you start having all this SpaceX stuff. And they were like, I wonder if like, you know, Elon Musk is tied in with like any weird stuff, because now they're they're basically revolutionizing rocketry again.
There has been an ongoing conspiracy theory about Elon Musk being involved in the occult and making deals with the devil to get where he's gotten and get the information that he has. So that's kind of an ongoing conspiracy theory, which could be proven true in the future. We don't know.
So
we might have another Jack Parsons on our hands.
But it does make, I mean, if you go back and look at this, that these, you can find Aboriginal cave art that looks pretty damn close to what you consider an alien gray to look like. Okay. And you can find other things. You can find Native American, like, you know, like paintings, you know, rock paintings that you could look at it and you can kind of go, yeah, that kind of looks like an alien gray to a certain extent. But alien grays weren't really in the public. They weren't really in the public discussion until Whitley Strieber's book. Communion comes out, and that painting is on the front cover, and that's where everybody kind of gets that association with the alien grays. Well, Crowley's lamb, his drawing of lamb, predates that by decades.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was in the early 1900s.
And then you start looking at the UFO flap, and it's not till later on that everybody starts kind of putting the pieces together, going, well, Crowley does this and basically communes with this alien gray, and then Jack Parsons is basically getting weird knowledge beamed into his dome from somewhere, you know, coming up with this weird rocket fuel that nobody understands how it works. And he does a working that they think because I mean, even he himself thought the UFOs were a result of the working that he did. When they were investigating him because they thought he was a communist sympathizer and he was stealing secrets, the FBI is investigating him for that. And they realize Air Force intelligence is investigating him. Air Force intelligence isn't investigating him because they think he's a commie. They want to know how he's tied into all of these weird UFO reports they're getting. So.
Daniel Garcia says, all this UFO talk has me thinking about Indrid Cold, the smiling man. I have been intrigued about what that figure truly was.
And it's weird because a lot of the like real West Virginia centric lore, I know Mothman's not specifically West Virginia. It's been cited in other areas with that. And Cold and all that. We're familiar with it.
But we're not really well read on.
I'm not as well read on that because I focus on the stuff nowadays that I think we're going to encounter or trying to research the stuff that we do encounter. But that is weird. That whole Indrid Cold thing is definitely weird.
And how it just kind of like ties into the Mothman phenomenon. It just seems like I don't know. It just seems like those two things would be just unrelated in a way.
I don't know. And there's so much debate over Mothman. And that's part of the reason I stay away from it. Because every time I go online, start looking at it, there's literally, it's probably even more divisive than like Sasquatch arguments are. Joe wearing pheromones and Bigfoot or Dogman tapping on the shoulder saying, you're not here for the hunting, are you? Remember the bear joke? You're not here for we both know you're not here for the hunting, Gary. So.
You're stealing one of Joe's favorite jokes.
That is one of my favorite jokes. So.
Oh, God. Jessie is having her Diet Dr. Pepper to try to get a little spunk here. I've been driving and hiking.
Yeah, we're only going to go a few more minutes here. But yeah, the Wanda Gina. Thank you. That's the Australian Aboriginal cave art that looks like alien grays at that point. So that was known. You can find instances of that, but it just wasn't. It wasn't in like the zeitgeist at this point. People weren't talking about it until Communion. And then people look at the Communion cover. And then I guess somebody somewhere along the lines went, well, hey, this thing that Crowley drew back in like, the early 20th century looks exactly like an alien gray that he claims was giving him all of this.
Paranormal Oz also says that, did you know that Wanda Gina is also a slang term for white fella?
I did not know that.
White fella or alien gray?
Or alien gray.
Dark Star 9513 says, I've heard many urban legends of musicians injecting the occult in their music. Yes. That is definitely a common thing.
Rob S. was talking about how his father-in-law is a 33-degree Mason and a Scottish Templar. If he's still alive and if Rob has ever suspected him of being involved in any sort of like
nefarious operations
type things. So Jesse's got a lot of what is it? The Oddfellows type memorabilia that she's extremely interested in that.
Now, my grandfather was involved in Rosicrucianism. So
weird.
But I do collect Oddfellows stuff. I have an Oddfellows altar and a bunch of other stuff. So
James Rucker has a nightly knife check. We're still wearing the clothes we just were in the woods in today and ran in. I'm carrying a Cold Steel SR1 because that's
I
my usual woods carry. That is the finest folding knife ever produced as far as if you were going to get dropped in the woods and just left and all you could have is a folding knife, you would want this one. Not the biggest, but it is exceptionally strong and just really well made. So
Aw. I have a Cold Steel Bushranger. That is what I'm carrying. That's what I always carry in the woods. It has the back on it to where I can actually use my fire steel with it. And I have started many a fire with this bad boy to keep me and Mr. Joseph warm. But the Bushranger is awesome. It's a Cold Steel Bushranger. And it's a tank.
yeah,
And
usually when we carry folders,
I have beaten this thing like almost to death, but
Yeah.
it is still just like it came out of the box. So
yeah, I mean, Cold Steel gets a bad rap nowadays, especially since they got sold. But you can't use like liner locks or regular back locks or something like that and make fires with them. And
no,
I mean, I've used
that's a
this
good way
yeah.
to get your hand cut to bits. So, but
Yeah.
I've used this with fire steel on multiple occasions. I've processed wood with it. It's not that big, but you can actually baton with it and do all kinds of stuff with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, those are strong knives, man. The SR1's like probably the literally the finest folding knife like ever made. So
yeah, and that's the only folder I think I would ever start a fire. I would use to start a fire.
Yeah.
I think that is the only folder I will ever use to start a fire is that Bushranger.
Right. I think we're gonna wrap up in a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
So where we go to from here? So we are going to we have to do a more in-depth video review than what we've done already.
Yeah, we just wanted to kind of relay to you guys the events of the past couple of days and what we think about them, and we wanted to kind of run it past you guys to kind of see what you thought about it.
And we're going to release we're going to release unedited footage of that light that we caught, and then once we get that out, I guess we'll see if we can somehow try to stabilize it. Do remember it's shot with a Phasm action cam.
Yeah.
So it's a very short
spectrum
distance camera. So the fact that you're seeing it at all it's because it appeared larger to the naked eye, but it's still super bright on there.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even have to go out there. We can probably go out here and go 100 yards and light up a lantern and see if you can see it at all.
We
and
can do that, yeah.
Lantern's insanely bright. And you'll also see that lantern will light up stuff around it, where this doesn't. So you'll see that the thermal.
Also the fact that we got thermal footage simultaneously. So one of us is holding the Phasm cam, the other one is holding the thermal, and then we swap, but we're both recording with both of them at the exact same time. So this is simultaneous footage with the AGM thermal and the full spectrum cam. So the fact that I actually remembered to pull out that dang thermal, but you have it, you can see I have it on red hot and you've got that heat coming off of it.
We thought about not talking about it and just releasing the footage, but it's so weird. We kind of just, I don't know.
I feel like we needed to kind of get it out there.
Yeah, we're not really
to get it out of our brains a little bit.
We're not going to do like some clickbaity video, like, wait until you see we were like, this is so weird. We kind of just want to talk about it because it's something strange that happened to us. And we're not really releasing it because we're going to have a spicy YouTube video. It's really weird. It's really weird. We kind of wanted to talk about it and then we'll release the footage.
It's pretty spicy though.
We'll release the footage for it and just then you guys kind of know what you're getting into and then see what people think about it at this point. But we're going to have that coming out. Right now, releasing a video, like a field investigation video, is going to take a backseat to the actual field investigation. We both have to go do our regular jobs for a few days, and then I don't know if we're going to take a day to try to get the video out or try to get back out there immediately and try to do a night investigation in that spot and be better prepared this time for it.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is to get out there right now and not
I think
wait.
we gotta go back to the location as soon as we're done with work this week.
Yeah.
I have like 3 12-hour days ahead of me.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to try to get some video editing done.
But that's probably not going to happen. But bear with us. It's going to come out. And then we would hopefully have more footage if we get up there and something else strange happens. So,
but thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Those of you who donated, we really appreciate it. We don't ever ask for anything like that, but it goes right into equipment, just stuff like that. It goes right into the quest that we try to share with you guys as far as the answers.
Some of it goes to energy drinks monster energy drinks that we pound before we go into the woods.
Tried to stay up for 36 hours in a row. So,
but before you guys head out the door, make sure you hit the like button. We have our email down below if you'd like to email us and have anything to say. Martin Groves, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you.
Martin, we have to talk to you as well about next year, something that's coming up. So,
yes. So make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you're still subscribed, because sometimes we talk about spicy subjects and that gets people unsubscribed from us. If you haven't checked out our latest episode of Dark Dive, we have Dark Dive 7 out. We've talked extensively about that topic today, but it's very concise on the episode, even though it's an hour and a half long. It's the longest Dark Dive we've ever done, but there's a lot of information. So make sure you guys check all that stuff out. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for upcoming releases from us. I'm going to try to get some editing done on that footage from this weekend, because it's so wild. It's shocking, honestly. But you guys be safe. Take care of each other.
Sorry we didn't follow the usual format tonight, but
Yeah.
we did want to share what had just happened to us all instead of the more interactive format we usually have on that.
Yeah.
We'll return to that. We wanted to share this as quickly as possible.
Yep. So I'm gonna go make dinner, and we're gonna shower, because we've been in the woods for a couple of days, and we're beat, and hopefully we don't have any orbs or anything fly off any shelves here. So let's have a peaceful evening. And thank you guys so much. I'm gonna let you guys say goodbye to each other, but I'm gonna take us out here, and we hope that you all have an awesome week. And if you guys need to get in touch with us, all that's scrolling below. Thank you. We love you. You guys are awesome and wonderful. And we'll see you later.